Welcome to the Late Night with Chalky podcast.
Ready.
Friends and family, brothers and sisters, welcome to the Late Night with Chalky podcast.
Our guest this week, a friend, former surfer and industry rep. He spent his time living between Bali, Hawaii, and California, along with his otherworldly adventures.
Shitty places.
With his wife, Angela, they decided to start importing, handmade bags, jewelry, clothing.
It works.
All the above. And in 2007, selling at a local farmer's market in Maui, they were selling out of goods. They were killing it. The demand was there, and they knew they were onto something big. And that's when Cleobella was born, right?
Yep.
Somewhere around there,
2007. Right there. You're good, man.
Fast forward to today.
Some sort of research.
Yeah, fast forward to today. The company's grown tremendously and expanded into more categories, including swim, high-end fashion, and home goods. He and his wife are still at the helm of their family-owned business.
Yes.
And the future looks brighter than ever. We welcome Mr. Obi One O'Brien.
Yes.
Yeah, brah.
Yes.
Did you already mention the brand Cleobella?
Yeah,
I did.
You did.
It's in there. You're not listening.
Thanks for
You're
the
such a
intro,
kid.
Jay.
fell
I didn't
asleep.
expect
Yo,
that.
wow. What a jerk.
That was a good intro.
I tried. Just
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah.
He always comes together with the intro.
You said former
Always-
surfer, though. I still surf.
Yeah.
Former pro.
Come on.
Yeah.
Former pro.
Yeah, cool.
No, he's still
I'll
rips.
take that.
It's like a president or governor. Always wants one. You're always one.
Yeah, totally, I guess so.
Pro.
So, it's Obi One, but there's different nicknames out there for you.
Yeah.
Probably not. You don't want people to know about it, but we're going to tell people.
Yeah. Cool. There's a bunch. It depends on different crews, I guess.
Skeletor.
Yeah. Do you want to go into that one? I'll
And
tell
then
Jay, because Jay hasn't heard that
Slim
one.
Jim Phantom.
Should we stick on the Skeletor one? Because I came from surfing closeouts in the South Bay. I used to do a lot of floaters.
Yes.
So Lyndon called
And
me.
you're
thought I
skinny
was-
as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you thought I was Richie Collins, so you called me Skeletor.
Did you have the sick
I
side
did not have
pants?
his style.
But
That's
you
for
did
sure.
have short hair back then.
Yeah, and I could see the resemblance when you're
a
doing
little
the floater.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Huntington had more corners, so you didn't have to
That
do as
was
many
just
floaters.
That was just to psych you out.
Yeah,
Right.
we tried. But then we
I did
wanted to
try.
have a heat, and for some reason you got smoked, and then you punched your board and
Yeah.
cut your finger open.
Yeah.
I don't know why you got
You're
so
a sore
upset
loser,
That's
about
why
bro.
I'll
that.
never remember. I'll never forget
Yes,
Skeletor.
because I didn't really like that name. But I have a lot of nicknames I don't necessarily
He does
like.
that when I beat him at ping pong too.
Oh, really?
Bro,
Yeah.
Breaks the paddles, punches the table, crushes the balls.
Whatever,
You
dude.
can't handle the truth.
So let's start at the beginning, Mr. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, where'd you grow up,
Where
bro?
did it all begin?
I grew up right next to LAX airport in a place called Playa del Rey. Everyone kind of thinks I'm from the South Bay, but like obviously because of the waves, I migrated through there. But yeah, it's the north of the airport, and it's a small place. And yeah, my dad actually, kind of a weird fact. He, have you guys been to Dockweiler or Gillis? Those beaches right in front of the airport.
Yep.
Driven past it.
You got
Yeah.
those little mini groins, like
In
little
the-
jetties, and
Yep.
yeah.
Those are the waves I grew up surfing, and
Does it ever get good? Has it,
it
ever
has.
Been?
It
Yeah.
used to, like,
No,
you know
never,
how it
no.
is.
Yeah.
It used to get, I think it still does. Now they're so eroded that jetties don't even hold sand. They're like floating in the ocean. I don't know when the last time you've been by there. Because
Yeah.
my parents still live up there, and it's kind of sad. But Gillis is a left that breaks on South Swell. Usually I wouldn't share spots, but it seems like the world's over with that now.
There's probably a camera there.
Yeah, Dockweiler's are right. But they got rid of all the houses above there when the airport expanded. My dad bought a house for $500, moved it on a truck to the lot, and he still lives in the house, and he's 90 years old. So my mom lives around the corner, and she's 80, so they
So
still
they
live
were
there.
getting rid of the houses, and he bought the house and relocated it.
Yes, on a-
For $500.
he bought the house for $500. I don't know how much it cost him to relocate it, and the lot was 30 grand at the time. So this is 1972, the year before I was born.
So
That's epic.
And he's got pictures of it moving on a truck.
that's insane. How big? What was the square footage on the house?
I think it was smaller then. I think it's like 2,800 square feet, and it was smaller then than when they
Chopped
put the
it up.
foundation and they built onto it. They added
That's a big
little
house.
No, it's not small. Yeah, by any means.
Yeah, 2,800
I mean, these are
square
all
feet.
old school oceanfront houses that they were just getting rid of because they expanded. If you drive by there next time, if you ever go from like Manhattan to Venice or you'll see this empty area up there, and it used to all be.
I kind of almost know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, so can we ask about, I know your dad, did your dad invent something or start a business?
Yeah, he was a serial entrepreneur. He's an engineer by trade, but
Smart filler.
yeah.
Was it Otter Pops or something like
Fruit
that?
bars, paletas. So it started with paletas. He saw this concept. Who should I look at? Should I
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I know you can't stop looking at me, but
Yeah. You make me want to laugh. So
Something going on over there. I'm trying to figure it out. Like, what's that odd thing? Oh, it's a whole.
yeah.
shut up. Let's go.
Yeah, you've seen those push carts, paletas.
Yeah.
So that was one business he started, and they called it froze fruit. And so I kind of grew up doing that, and that kind of intertwines through my whole surfing and work life, right? And just learning about business, working for them,
So your dad
Built to,
saw
like-
these things, saw these people.
Went to Mexico, found the machines that make them, brought the machines back here, started it with a partner, and started making these paletas, like kind of mass producing them and selling them
and
to
doing the
stores.
same thing in carts here?
No, he started selling them to stores.
Wow.
Yeah, he took them kind of from the cart theory to like
To the
retail,
stores.
to the wholesalers,
The supermarkets.
Like, and the end, Trader Joe's was like one of our biggest accounts, but that was a private label account. So the ones you see in Trader Joe's are still the similar ones to we had made, and we were known for like before all this organic stuff came in. It was like real chunks of fruit was kind of our marketing slogan.
How rad.
Do you remember the old Java Jungle next to the donut shop? Way before
Yeah.
Java Jungle, it was an ice cream bar
juice,
but they had those like original Mexican like fruit
Polita.
bars. Yeah, like the coconut, mango,
Yes.
Oh my
like all the
gosh.
kind of exotic. They were so good,
They had
and they
it
were
there?
real.
Yeah.
They had it. I remember, like
So how did you ever ask your dad like what spurred that idea? Or
My dad just he grew up poor and he wanted to make money and secure a nice lifestyle for his family. So he always tried a bunch of different businesses. So if you go in his office, he's got like 12 plaques of businesses that have failed. But he was an engineer and he worked for Hughes, which Hughes Aircraft is right in the marina, right there.
Yeah.
Playa Vista now. It was right there, the old Hughes building.
and engineers make that's a lucrative career, right?
Yeah, I think they do well, but they work for someone, right? So that was what, growing up, he's like, bosses are assholes, work for yourself. That was kind of what he instilled in me.
yeah, you're working for somebody.
Yeah.
And you're on teams.
But still, like it's neat to hear.
He'll never go out. He'll never not live the test of time. Those jobs. So
Yeah.
like your gut jobs.
Because engineer is like, when you say doctor, engineer, lawyer, like those are the top tier jobs that you go to school for.
Right.
Right? And you're pretty fucking smart.
Well, my dad went to MIT. If that gives you any kind of things, like you've seen Good Will Hunting.
That's the gnarliest.
That's a pretty gnarly
Technical-
engineering school. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it kind of comes. He's from Boston, so he comes from a family of
What,
educated
if
people.
you don't mind us asking, what other businesses did he start?
Ooh, well, he did a lot. So he tried to do like chassis. He tried to do sugarcane in Jamaica that failed. He did some orange groves in the Central Valley, which worked out pretty well. So I'm gonna have to go through the list. There's a couple different things he's tried,
but not like one industry. Like
yeah, I think that was actually kind of when we talk about it, his weakness. He wasn't scared to try things, but sometimes when you don't know, you don't know. But he might disagree with that. But he still worked his engineering job. He'd come home, eat dinner, and then start this new business and work till 1 a.m, and then go back and do the engineering till he could make enough money with the fruit bars to, resign from that.
That's such an insane story too. Like I love that when you hear how people could be comfortable doing one thing, right?
Right.
And growing up, that's what you see people do is like they go to school, go to college, and then sit in their career and be content. And then you have these fucking one-uppers that fucking, hey, I'm going to do something else on top of this, which is really bitching to hear about.
And that's all fine, and I think that's like a goal of like general security and kind of where the school kind of coaches you into. But if you want to dream bigger and try to take some chances, there's definitely different ways to live life.
I mean, that's what we've been telling our daughter who's going to business marketing, entrepreneurship school.
Right.
Like, it's like, hey, cool,
Yeah.
but like, let's get a day job that will like pay, and then do your side hustle until that you know, like, because the benefits of like, you know,
and also start a business
learning,
while you don't have a ton of overhead. Like
Yeah.
before you have the house, I don't know how old your daughter is.
Yeah.
Before you have the
She's-
house,
yeah.
before you have all
Before
the
you
stuff, you
committed
can
to all the-
fail quick and
Not be-
yeah,
Move
but
on.
or
but you got to bring in some, you know, real job money and benefits and stuff, you know, because
Yeah.
like you said, it takes a long time to build something, you know,
Totally.
and it's not always the first, you know, go around that you strike,
Yeah.
you know, it's like
100%.
fudge.
So
But that's
back to
American
surfing.
dream.
Yep.
How old were you, and who introduced you?
I was
And-
thinking of that. I don't know. So my dad has another son.
well, this thing's over.
I just started surfing last
Close
week.
that, we're
Soft
outta here.
top. I got it out of Costco.
He's a COVID surfer.
Yeah.
He's a Val.
Adult learner. I love that term, adult learner. But that's a good one. No, I have an older brother who lived in the valley, and he had left the surfboard because we live kind of close to the beach. And it was,
Different moms, different.
yeah, not from my mom, just my dad's son.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a freeform single fin. I think it was probably 6'6", and then the leash was in the fin, single fin, and it had the elastic leash, you know, that wrapped around. Yeah, so it
Dangerous.
was kind of a danger. But I knew it was under the house, and I had seen people surfing, and then I wanted to try it. I was just
So
kind of
did you
intrigued, and
grow
I had
up-
boogie boarded.
Did you grow up in Playa?
Playa del Rey.
Yeah.
And Playa del Rey is really close to the beach, but when I was growing up, they had killed the surf scene because they put the marina break wall in there. So it went from like a surf town to not a surf town, which is kind of weird and interesting. You have to drive. Well, Gillis and Dockweiler still break, but El Porto would be your consistent wave if you want to surf all the time.
They
Yeah.
did that all up and down the coast in
Yeah.
that like 60s, 70s, like,
Yep.
you know, putting in the break walls. My dad said he'd surf Long Beach all the time, Belmont, like all
Right.
the time. Like when it was like pumping, it would be like, said like 54, 50, go to 56.
Right.
and
That
it's
was
like-
already done before you were born.
I don't know if it was before I was born because I feel like I saw surfers surfing it. I'd have to look at the dates, right?
Yeah.
But, and the crew was old enough that they surfed it when they were kids, but like when I had started surfing, it was probably a couple years since it had happened.
So
And they put a concrete jetty at the end of Playa del Rey. Playa del Rey is right at the end of Culver Boulevard from Culver City, and they put a concrete jetty, which not many ways break good on a concrete jetty that I've seen.
No. But it's a bummer because, you know, you probably have the old guard saying like, oh yeah, this spot was so good. We used to surf here all the time.
All
and then
the
you're like, what?
Yeah, all the time.
Ruin the waves.
Yeah, the guys that stopped surfing and got on the drugs, and then
Yeah.
you see them at the bar, and they corner you in the bar, and they heard you could like hit the lip, and they're like, "Dude, you should have been here
Yeah.
2 years ago,
Back
5
in my
years ago.
day."
Yeah, it was so epic right out front." blah,
you
blah,
thought
blah."
it was good today?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, you hear
There's
it.
so
And
much-
there's a lot of truth in it. And of course, they're, you know, obviously
A little bit of
a
embellishment.
little bit.
Yeah. Do you think the waves at Huntington Pier have gotten worse over the years or better?
I think
Goes
It
through
hasn't changed, right?
phases.
I think it goes through phases, but I do believe the old pier pylon setup produced better waves than the new pier setup.
Right.
Like the way the sand sits, and
But if you watch like videos,
But I
from
also
the old
used to
days-
think like the shore break was overhead every day because I
Yeah.
was like, you know, 2 feet tall.
Well, the younger when we were younger, El Nino years were hitting,
yeah.
and they were fucking gigantic waves back then.
The reason I asked that question is because I've measured the stoke level, right? Because I
Yeah.
see some of these kids still going to the beach. It's on shore, and
Yeah.
they're stoked, and I'm kind of like, done
But,
that.
like,
I'm not that.
Finishing the like when you look at the say it's the 1966 World
Open.
contest
Yeah.
at the
It's
pier.
so shitty.
It looks like shit. It's like
Right.
walled.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. I mean,
Well, they're
I'm
running
sure
it-
there's other places like there that and other places up and down the coast all over the world
Yeah, Killer Dana.
that have changed
Yes,
over
right.
the years. But I mean, even like our spot, right?
Yeah.
Like El Porto that never gets good. That the last board riders club that was there, everyone said it was like fucking perfect.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
I mean, you were there.
No, I wasn't there.
I wonder if you would have thought it was perfect, though.
It
Because
looked-
the locals get really excited about
Dude,
a
it
good
looked
day.
good. I saw all the posts and I was like, damn.
Yeah, it has its days. They're just rare, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
At that winter time when it's got the cross up swells, the short intervals. That's when it shines, you know.
Yeah.
And the offshore winds, the south winds, yeah.
So, the board that you tried, freeform, did somebody teach you, or
Nope.
you just went out and
No
took
surf
it down to the
classes
beach?
back then, Lyndon. You know that
Yeah.
as good as anyone, right?
But your
No,
dad
I
didn't
just-
surf.
And he didn't surf. I had boogie boarded a little, so we'd go to the beach. My mom would take us to the beach. So I'd boogie board and stuff,
Yeah.
and I kind of felt like, oh, I want to stand up, surf, yeah. And so,
And
and
how-
then I think we went on a family around the same time. We went on a family trip to Waikiki, as you do, you know.
Yeah.
And I caught one of those waves that just went forever. I'm like,
That was when
sick.
you got hooked.
I don't know if that was the wave that got hooked. I don't remember the exact wave, but
It's
it was
always
like,
better in warm water.
Yeah, right. And that was just long and
Yeah.
easy, and there wasn't a million people
Yeah.
out there at that time. But
We talk about how like that first stand-up glide
yeah,
and how like euphoric and memorable it is. Like you've never experienced that, right? Like
Right.
before then, and how important and like special, and it'll forever be engraved. You might not know all the details, but you'll know, like you'll remember, like, holy shit.
yeah,
Like surfing is I mean, we know it's special, but like when people listen to us talk about it, they probably go, what the fuck? Like, but there's so many things you can't describe about surfing, right?
100%.
But like the fact that you're like on top of a plank and then you're just cruising on nature, right? And you're the feeling that you get from that is like you don't get it from anywhere else.
Well,
Yeah.
we're adrenaline junkies in a way. Everybody at some sort of level, and that is, you know, like a free ride.
Yeah.
You know, like, and most people, you know, they build up, but like that, like you said, that first glide, you just want to go bigger and faster the next one.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's like you're hooked.
But
And
it's like
the
it's
nature
such-
part's huge, right? Because you get to go in the ocean, a body of water, submerge yourself, and then these swells come from all over the place. And
Yeah.
you connect with them, right? It was sent from far away, and you connected with it from this time before it hit the shore.
Yeah.
It's
Free
insane.
babysitting.
Did you skateboard or did you
100%,
skateboard?
yeah. Skateboarding was a big part of growing up for
Yeah.
sure. Like again, closing down Marina Skate Park was a big skate park. And so
shit,
like
Marina Skate Park.
yeah, I'm a little bit behind the Dogtown guys. So the guys that were a little older than me was like Scott Oster and Aaron Murray, and so we'd see those guys at the local ramps. And Christian Hosoi would show up in the ramps now and again. And I built it. So they were building in that area a lot. It was like open fields. That was the beauty of our childhood, right? We just
Yeah.
run crazy in the fields and
Steel wood.
Steel wood.
all our ramp. That was my mom and dad had to sit me down and go, you know what you're doing is stealing. We're not going to stop you, but we want to let you know that this is stealing. So we had
It's
a
the
whole ramp.
scraps.
Yeah,
It's the
totally.
scraps,
We
but-
thought we were taking the scraps.
Yeah.
They didn't have fences around when they were building back then.
Yeah.
Either. You could just walk in. We'd play in all those things. It was epic. But the ramp, we didn't know what we were doing, so we built a shitty transition. So I don't think it
Yeah.
improved. It was like had a lot of flats and a quick transition. It was fun though. We had a good time.
What kind of skateboard did you have?
Tommy Guerrero, then I had some Powell ones, some good Powell ones. I can't remember the guys specifically. Somehow have a Caballero still, but I don't remember it being my board, but it ended up
Yeah.
being my board. But we used to BMX. I mean, this is a theme, I think, in a lot of your podcasts.
Yeah.
That at
California
that time
kid.
you did
All the dirt
everything,
field,
right?
you
You
did
still
everything.
played baseball, you still played soccer, you rode BMX, you surfed, you know?
Yeah.
So that was kind of...
Yeah, we looked
did
up
all
to
of it.
like a local dude that was like sponsored by GT Bikes. His dad owned a bike shop. Is like that, you know, that's what the dad did. So a kid was like a professional bike rider.
Yeah.
And he would just tear up, like they'd build the craziest jumps, and we'd just be like, he is the best, you know?
Yeah.
And then for those few, years, short, couple of years, heck yeah, man.
amazing.
That was so much fun.
But there wasn't even like that organized sports for a lot of these things back
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
right? Like BMX, I know they had the little racing
Pump tracks,
stuff and
yeah,
stuff
like-
like
It didn't
that.
get
Yeah.
what do you call it? Sophisticated or organized.
Right.
I mean, they had them.
Yeah.
They definitely had them.
We did a lot of quarter pipes. We did a lot of ditches. We'd go skate in like Venice and
yeah, you find the
the
little,
street, all
little
those
coping,
spots.
little
Yeah,
wave
it was
Yeah.
that mix. Like,
flashies.
it was when skating kind of died a little bit, and I got hurt so much. And then I'm sure you guys both can relate when you cut yourself a bunch, and then you're trying to surf and
Yeah.
it stings. You're kind of like, which
Yeah.
path am I going to go here?
Yeah, the raspberries on the knees and elbows
Yeah,
everywhere.
exactly.
And rolling your ankle skateboarding, like that fucking sets you back for 2 weeks
Right.
or a week. at least. So, did you progress quickly on that first board, the freeform?
No, it's a single fin 6.6, barely any wax on it. Yeah.
Go straight.
And I think somehow I got another used board. Maybe it was a Fluid Drive. I don't know if you guys remember this from Fluid Drive guy, Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
Scott Daly wrote him a lot of the Malibu. So I'm like right in between kind of like the Venice, Santa Monica, Malibu scene and then the whole South Bay scene, right? So, and then the surf culture was kind of gone where I was. There's some older surfers from there, but I don't think there's been a pro surfer. I think you interviewed Matt Pagan. He's from, he's younger than me, but I used to work for his dad and stuff. But I think Rawson or one of the big shapers I think originally came. Some of the older guys have told me the stories, but there's not. Nick Christensen was a guy. He got inducted to the Hermosa Hall of Fame as well, who gave me some tips. But he was like 30 when I was kind of starting to surf, so he's kind of at the end of his surf career.
What age did you start?
I want to say I started surfing around 12 or 13-ish, which is, I guess,
junior high.
late. Yeah, junior high. But we had been boogie boarding a little bit, but I feel like I progressed, and I had a couple buddies, which seems to be the key theme, that wanted to go. So we were pretty committed. We'd ride our bikes, and I even listened to one of your podcasts. We had the foam on there. You hold, one-handed, no bike racks, and it's hilly, so we had to go down, up over the hills, and we go
no gears.
Before. Yep, single. Yep, not that it was like hard, but it was part of the adventure. It was awesome. And then that little crew split up because one guy got super hurt. We were at Gillis alone one day, and he had a quad fin, and he got stabbed in the back. And I'd never seen like all the guts and that come out. And I was like on the beach alone.
In his calf?
In his calf.
Oh,
and
shit.
we finally called someone and got it. And he was like super accident prone. He stopped surfing. And then my other buddy I went with moved to San Diego, so it was kind of like
that's a deal breaker too. Like,
changes a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Watching that. And then I think my first surfboard that I bought brand new, which is, you're going to hear a common theme in the South Bay, is ET surfboards. Pat Ryan walked in there, brought it brand new, and it was epic. And I remember going to Leo Carrillo like quickly into it and putting a big ding in it. I was just so shattered,
So you bought a brand new board.
That was my first, after I had gotten these used boards from just wherever around you could kind of find them, My dad, my mom were like, being an entrepreneur, you kind of vary in the money, but he was very strict in like, you have to earn something to get something. So there was not like, oh, I like this, and
just throw you into it.
Yeah, so
gotta earn it.
That's good.
What size, like a proper, like they sized you up in the shop, like, hey Grom, you're like what,
right. I was thinking about that too, because now they have Grom boards, right?
Yeah.
But back then I don't think so. Did I get a 5'11"? It might have been the smallest board, or was it a 6'4"? I have no idea. I can't remember. Probably like a 6'3", I'm guessing.
Boards were short and thick.
Yeah, they were kind of stocky, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like chalky-aki.
I mean, whatever you were on, it's definitely an upgrade. But like you said, there was very few that had like.
There was a tri-fin too, which is huge, right?
Yeah.
Who's the shaper of that board?
Pat Ryan.
Ryan.
He's still. I don't know if he's retired, but he's still. I think he still shapes for ET.
I've recognized that name.
Yeah, no, he's been their stock shaper, South Bay shaper forever.
Yeah, it's funny. We just had Ed Sakel on. I don't know if you know who that is.
I do. I know his son too.
Yeah. So Sakel glassing was what he did before he, set out on his own doing bullet and then Sakel surfboards. But he used to glass all those boards, ET boards.
Oh, really?
And spiders.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you guys?
But I remember seeing Pat Ryan boards on the
racks.
Right.
On the racks.
Have you guys sat with Eddie ever?
No, we want to get Ed on for sure.
No, but I mean, being a rep, have you ever sold him anything?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. You sat in the little office on the hot seat and kind of like gone through your numbers with him before.
Yeah, it's been a really.
I'm doing it with his kid though.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They're not
Sebastian.
Yeah, those like very business sense and strictly numbers and.
Well, he was like one of those guys that clicked too, because he ran his business and he lived in France half the year.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like another person that was like, oh, you can kind of live.
Well, he hired
like
incredible employees that have been there for 20, 30, 40 years,
Insane.
So he knows how to,
And
But he was also getting his
people.
reports too, so like computer savvy. So I think he was getting them faxed to France maybe in the early days, and he'd look at his numbers daily and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
So
Fax,
and he had the
sure.
real estate, which is obviously a key component to
That's
everything.
one thing that Sakel told us. He's like, man,
He was
Eddie
buying
Talbot's
stuff
like the best salesman I've ever seen, and he's the smartest guy out of any of us, because any money he made, he just bought real estate.
Right.
All he ever did was buy real estate.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow.
I heard a story about him, and I don't know if this is true, but it was in the era, I think, when the surfing was getting bigger, probably the years I repped, and there was getting a lot of pressure to change the store, and he was on an airplane, and he was just talking to some random guy, and the guy was like, I've been to a couple of surf stores, and I went to this one store, and it was just amazing, and it was E.T., and like now they're getting praised for looking like they look,
Yeah.
shopping how they do, because they still go help you, right? Because the racks
It's all
are a bit of
customer
mess.
service.
It's like, it's over here and da 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 da. It's not like shop by yourself, right?
There's hardly any more shops in the world or country, in our country at least, that do cardboard signs.
Right.
I try to get them a new fixture and like, that looks too corporate. Like you gotta
we're not
like,
gonna do
you gotta,
that.
can you throw some
Take a hammer to that, please.
Totally.
Yeah,
It's
it's kind of
amazing.
it's kind of charm,
Yeah,
but
totally.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
but
right?
again, going back to the customer service and like how their expertise and then the selection of goods, it's like
Right.
insane.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know that many surf shops do that. Being in this new fashion business we're in, we kind of learned to appreciate that. We'll go shop in New York and see how they do customer service and like how the people know the product, how they treat the customer when they walk in. It's kind of like there's a whole art form to it. Whereas, I mean, surfing's like, hey, who will come work at the shop? Cool, you want to? All right, good. Which
gotta go
I
for a
kind of
surf
love
break.
too. So it's kind of yeah.
No, it's funny how the people that care about their business, the number one thing is customer service.
100%.
Right? And with customer service is product knowledge and then selection, all that stuff that makes them a successful business.
I'm not telling you anything you don't know. How many years you work retail?
A
20?
long time.
Yeah.
Probably.
Was it that
Close to that.
It was,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah.
Yeah. But so
Best damn salesman ever.
Pat Ryan,
Yeah.
ET Surfboard, is that the board that you're like, you remember being the board that like elevated your surfing? No.
To Jay's question, I got a fluid drive that was smaller, more performance, and that was when I could like do a bottom turn. And a big life changer in my life was next door. This guy moved in, and I don't know how much older he was than me. His name was Tom, and he was a surfer, and he shaped and did all that. So he set up a shaping bay in his backyard and glassing.
Wow.
And he took me surfing a lot, and we shaped boards together and
No way.
glassed them.
How old were you?
I must have been like 14 or something like that.
How cool.
Yeah,
What a
13, 14. He was the first guy who took me to Trestles, and I remember it's probably like head high at this point, but I remember in my eyes as high as those boxes up there, which
and perfect.
20 foot, if people can't see
And
it.
perfect coming from
Perfect
fucking
right-handers.
South Bay.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God.
Wait, that thing's still breaking?
Yeah. And I remember not being scared, but being excited. And like as I grew in my surfing life, when I get like intimidated by waves, I was like, go back to that first day where you're like excited about the big waves instead of going, shit, I hope one of these doesn't land on my head. But maybe-
Cobblestones, rocks, is it reef? Like, what's under there?
But how, isn't it crazy? Like when you're getting better, you progress, you're like, oh damn, I can surf over here now.
Yeah.
You know where these kids surf because they're better. I can't go there now, but when I get better, I'm gonna surf there. And then, like you're like coming from the South Bay, especially where what you're talking about, Dockweiler. I mean, those waves, maybe back then they were better.
Dockweiler gets good, like it's a proper right-hand jetty that barrels, and we'd have those moments where it would barrel really good. And,
But your first day at Trestles.
oh, well, Trestles is like the next
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's one of those like childhood
memories.
You're just like, because it's kind of mind blowing, right? How good it's like. You went to a wave pool almost, right? Like a perfect fucking wave.
Totally.
It's so different, right?
Yeah.
So much time and space. I think actually, like what makes us beach break surfers good, well trained is our timing, right? You have to be so quick in beach breaks. You're like tap tap tap, it's over, and then all of a sudden you get into this time and space, and you're like, whoa, I can draw my bottom turn out. I have freedom to kind of move and turn. That's a big.
It's a learning
change.
curve.
Yeah.
And lowers is like a perfect canvas, like you said, Lyndon. It's like, like what?
It's a
and the
wave pool.
But the caliber, it's still intimidating whether your first
Yeah.
time with the rocks or whatever, but the crowd's like
'Cause, like,
intense.
For people that surf quick shore break, right? Like you said, you develop a quickness,
Right.
Like you have to, kind of like speed up the process of your surfing when you're surfing certain beach breaks, especially wall.
Especially if you get trained to be in contests, right?
Yeah.
Because instead of doing one turn, if you can squeeze two in, you think you're going to get more points or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But going back to one thing you mentioned, like moving from one place to another, like Dockweiler, when I first started surfing and riding bikes, I couldn't paddle out to the end of the jetty and catch a wave. There's no way those guys would have took me up and broke my fins off my board. And
Localism was real.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Pecking order.
not as things have changed, you can get whatever, maybe it should be some guy that just started surfing recently. He's probably a nice guy, married, kids, all that too, but he can just paddle out to the end and say hello, So that's a
On a
big
softboard.
Yeah.
Adult learner.
Yeah, totally. But it's just that, I think one of the parallels you'll see is we've been through, at our age, that school of surfing, right?
Yeah.
We've done the time on some of these contests, worked in the surf shop, maybe repped or whatever path to kind of lead travel experiences and
You're going too fast, dude.
I am.
No,
I talk
but
way too fast, but we'll go back.
No, it's good to hear, like the kind of young vibes of the localism stuff, because it was real.
Totally.
Like I said, I grew up, and these are guys that we'd hang on Main Street on the beach. Like it wasn't like there was some weird, friction. You would just go out and be like, "You're not getting a wave ground, beat it, go inside." And we're like,
It was cool on land, but not in the water.
For sure. They would just be like clowning you and like, "Ooh, go surf the kiddie bowl, Grom," and they didn't embrace and kind of help develop you and like, "Hey, come on, let's get you into a bomb." Like, not once ever did any of those ever just say, "Hey, come out and sit on the peak, we'll launch you into a good one." Nope. Beat it.
You went down and figured it out. Oh, I think the one story I was going to say about that guy next door, he was teaching me how to do lippers. And so I haven't had much formal coaching or anything through my experience. It's just friends and talk and chatter. And he was always like, grunt when you hit the lip and hit it hard and try to go vertical. And that was like his one move. And we do that. But he was also a really good airbrush artist. He was like a full artist. So like all his boards were artwork, and then he made crazy fins and everything. So it was kind of a really educational approach to the early days of surfing, and he moved right next door to my house. Like, so my backyard and his backyard had a shaping thing, and he'd take me surfing.
Rad.
It was pretty
That's
cool.
crazy.
Because
Did
we
he
needed
sell
rides.
his boards like out, or he just
No,
made
he
them
just
for
made
himself?
a couple for himself. And at that time, he had said he had just got back from Nicaragua when he moved in. It's got to be like early '80s. So like to hear those kind of stories and stuff like
This
that.
guy's cool.
That's a trip. That's fortunate.
It was a trip. I kind of believe in these universal forces as I've gotten older and stuff. Like I grew up super atheist, went to Catholic school, but now I kind of like, these forces, what are these coincidences? Or did someone put these things in front of you for reasons that guided you forward, So that was one of them.
As you get older, was there any surf shops in the town, or did you, like you said, you had to go to
Went to
ET, which was
ZJ. I don't think ZJ was there. Was Horizons West there?
Yeah.
I don't think ZJ wasn't there. No. ET. Maybe
It would have been Zuma
Inspired?
J's before ZJ.
Yeah.
Zuma J's.
But Zuma J
Horizons West was there, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe Randy was there.
Randy, right?
Yeah.
But you're kind of smack in the middle. Either, like obviously ET probably had the better selection farther away,
ET
but
was kind of the one because they had skateboarding there too.
Yeah.
That's what we knew.
So,
we kind of gravitated more that way in general because El Porto was an easier beach to get to, more consistent than like going to Surf Marina or Venice,
Who were the surfers you were looking up to?
Well, guys you wouldn't have heard of. There'd be like the local guys, like my buddy Mike Gray. He was the guy who gave me rides, and he surfed really good, and he was sponsored by Body Glove at that time because Daly kind of grew up in Playa del Rey or lived there for a stint
Scott
too.
Daly.
Yeah, so he had and there was this guy, Maury Monzo, was like the team manager at that time, and he had a Body Glove VW bus and he used to park it at Dockweiler and stuff. But then that was kind of like my small goals was like to surf as good as Mike. And then once I got past him, this other guy, Jason Nibb, really good friend of mine. He's Jamaican, he's goofy foot and great style and rips really hard.
Is he still around?
He is. He doesn't surf. He's got like a minor form of ALS too. He can't not stand up on a surfboard, which is super bummer. He lives in San Diego. And this guy, Christian Zingali, was a local guy. He was a pretty hardcore guy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like Strider and Ricky Massey were kind of my age. So I kind of looked up to those guys. And then then I started getting the Manhattan Beach scene, and that was like all the guys we're gonna probably talk about that have influenced my surfing. You know,
Yeah.
as far as
When did you like know like I'm a diehard surfer and I'm going to do this every day and contests? Like, were you familiar with the scene, like the surf scene? Like,
no, not at all. I mean, I started playing soccer and for Manhattan Beach Club, and I've been surfing Manhattan Beach a little bit. And then one of the kids' dad on the team I met opened a surf shop, and he started throwing local contests called the Beach Break Series, and then he sponsored me. And
Your first sponsor.
First sponsor was a shop, and then Kelly Gibson sponsored me with BA Surf. So I remember, I told Kelly the other day, Saturday when I saw him, I remember ripping that first box open with like BA. Do you remember BA
Yeah.
Surf? You can picture, I don't know. You're a little younger, yeah?
Him and Kelly, or not Kelly, Ted Robinson started it, right?
I think Kelly's dad actually
Okay.
started, and Kelly worked, because he was telling me all the lessons he learned from boxing to printing and screen printing and doing
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
It was like a cartoon.
Cartoon,
Yeah.
and the BA, like bare asses,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
I remember probably the logo, but I don't remember where it was from or anything. You know, like,
It was small. It wasn't huge. It was like a t-shirt. They had t-shirts. I don't know if they had hats. They had a couple shorts, but they ended up putting on a beach break surf contest series. And then I
They
started
made a run.
competing.
They made a run of trying to make a brand for sure.
Yeah.
It lasted for a couple of years. They had ads in the mags too.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh no, they were. It was a full '80s thing. Big logo,
Yeah.
colors. It was kind of character.
80s, the big logo.
There you
bright
go.
colors.
Yeah, totally.
But it was like a cartoon nose,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
BA and ass.
I definitely got hooked before that, but
Yeah. Because there's that pinnacle point where it's like, you know, it starts consuming, you know? Like,
Taking
usually
over.
you're playing organized sports and stuff.
Soccer
And then,
and-
like, those start, you know, because they're all seasonal. They weren't like you're on this team all year long. It'd be like, oh, football in the fall and
Yeah, yeah.
soccer or baseball in the spring. And then, you know, like, they all kind of rotated. And then, like, one by one, it's like, I don't know. Last one that lasted for
Yeah.
me was basketball, but I'm like, I'm never going to be that tall and I'm never going anywhere with this.
Yeah.
you got
But
game?
surfing,
You got game on
no,
that?
not anymore. Like when I was a kid, I loved it. That was,
But I think if the story goes, as I remember in my head, was those local contests, and it's pretty interesting. Greg, I don't know if you listened in his speech, he talked about this guy, Howard, who used to video them all the time. Well, Howard used to video all these beach.
So beach break.
Beach break, yeah. Where's the new spider shop? It was kind of there. It's on like right in Manhattan Beach, up from the pier. It was awesome.
Not Highland,
And I
Manhattan.
ended up
Manhattan.
Boulevard, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, right in there.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Anyways, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it was down there, and he had the shops, and that's where I kind of met all the South Bay surfers. Because I surfed El Porto, but that wasn't necessarily all the South Bay guys. Not many guys surfing El Porto at the time were like competing and stuff. It was kind of more like a I surf to surf kind of crowd, you know.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a weird divide at El Porto, like Playa del Rey, El Segundo, and Manhattan Beach. They all kind of didn't get along when I was the older guys. That there's notorious fighting and all that kind of.
The lot lizards that only surf their own spot. Like,
Yeah, their
they
only
they
little
won't go down.
fucking peak. Yeah.
Was the scene pretty big? Like there's a lot of surfers.
I mean, it's all comparable, right? It felt like a lot back then, but you could pull up to El Porto and
It's
not
even
have
worse.
people surf between 45th and the exit. And now that'd be impossible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't comment too much because I haven't been up there that much.
The times I've surfed over the years, it's like fucking packed.
Packed now. It's
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere is, right? I mean, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Go-
Good- it's
a
good
whole
and
podcast on, yeah, right? But yeah, and I think that got me in surfing with those guys and competitively. I was going to say that's where I was. The Howard, who Greg had mentioned, videoed him when he was young. Greg and Matt Walls just got together and put out all his old videos of these contests. Holy shit, the waves were bad.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's like raw footage of hours of this contest that Greg just
No
put on
editing, just
YouTube.
a
No
full-
editing. It's
yeah,
just
just-
like, you're like, is that me? Oh, wow.
Wait,
Oh.
is it on YouTube or what?
It's on YouTube.
Oh, sick.
I wish I had the name. I could look it up, but I don't want to get on my phone. But yeah, it's a trip. He put all those on there. That went back down memory lane.
Yeah.
Being there last Saturday was kind of memory lane kind
Yeah.
of thing. But
That's cool. I mean, it's such a trip to look back at, like, you as a kid surfing. I kind of see it in my kids, you know. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize surfing was so hard until I started watching my kids try to develop and then giving them pointers, and then they don't listen, and then you're like, well, that's why you're, just the subtleties, like move your foot here and that board will turn back, whatever, hit the lip hard, like just not coaching, but just pointers.
Yeah.
But you don't realize how hard it is until you start really kind of like watching and analyzing. It's like, fuck, man.
It is.
Like,
surfing is fucking hard.
it's so hard,
Yeah.
We just went on our first family surf trip. So we went off Bali to another island, and there's like one of the only sand right points in Indonesia.
Wow.
And it's perfect for learning. We went with our friends. So Angela surfed 5 days straight. So talking about surfing's hard. She was like, and she was getting pushed into waves, And then my daughter, she's pretty keen, like she has fun. She's 9. My son had the best time he's had, but he's not like keen on surfing. He didn't come back here and go, or even go back to Bali and go, let's surf again,
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's because I froth or because he's just like,
you gotta let them let them figure it out.
He's like a musician, right?
He's into music. Yeah. He's got his passions, but surfing hasn't been one of them. But I feel like I want him to have that good base because it's so hard. Because I've seen those people that started surfing and maybe took a break, and then when they come back later, they can at least surf when they're 25.
Yeah.
Whereas if
Muscle
they just
memory.
start at 25, they're like, ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to really be committed to get much better.
Well, you just tell them, like, if you want you want to hang out with us, we're going to be going to like really cool places, and it's about surfing.
Yeah.
That's what we tell kids. Like, it's a whole life. It's a life.
Well, we go to those places, but me and my wife
sure.
talk about it's like how much incentive should you give them just to go surfing, right?
Yeah.
So we just go down to the beach, the boogie boards there, the swim fins, the surfboard, pick one of them up, do whatever, and we don't discriminate against it.
So you back to the amateur contests, you did the beach break ones, and then did you do WSAs, NSSAs?
More of the NSSAs. So the first NSSA I did, I think, was at Tamarack, it's right where Carlsbad starts.
Ponto.
Wow.
It wasn't. There was no Pondo back then, right?
Yeah.
So it was in the right out. Was it Tamarack? It was right out from Carlsbad because the hotel was still there. I don't even know if the Tamarack jetties, but I made the finals. And I think you've talked to some of that. Like the struggle is like all this coordination, right? So my dad got me a hotel room and said, "Get a ride home the next day." And so he left. And my mom and my sister and brother, I think they had a soccer thing the next day because the family's super soccer oriented. And then I think I still have the semis and made the final. And then I just hitched a ride back with whoever kept progressing and could give me a ride. And
who's going north?
And like talk about supervision, I rode in the back of a pickup truck all the way back to the South Bay from Carlsbad. So
that's funny.
Yeah, you
was
can
loose
get away
back
with
then.
it. Yeah, right.
So how many NSSA contests into it that you made the final?
That was the first one.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that kind of gave me, like you were talking about being hooked, that kind of gave me like, oh, I'm actually decent at this for my age.
What'd you get?
I don't know if I got 5th or 3rd. I was trying to think. I think Micah Pitts, remember that kid, was in the final? He might have won.
You probably won them all.
Pat Moss, I think, was in the final as well, if I remember correctly.
He was a gnarly competitor too.
Yeah. Yep. And so that was kind of like the hope of it. And then I started to get like proper
was that
equipment.
Juniors or?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was definitely Explorer, I think.
Yeah, I think they both had different.
You're only
divisions.
like 14, 15.
Yeah.
And your dad said, "Fuck it, he's gonna get a hotel room."
Yeah. He didn't
Well,
have
it came
any-
down to get it booked for you.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Totally. So I was thinking about that story. It's like
No
one-off
cell
stuff.
phones, no nothing.
No,
Like figuring
nothing.
out, Grom, you know our address.
Totally. We did. I mean, we had a couple guys that we knew were possible rides home. We talked to,
depending
and it
on
depended,
how they did in the contest.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly.
Like, you better make it out of the seat.
Yeah,
bro.
they were going to wait around for you that's for damn sure. You know. So
That's hilarious.
Now, were you picking up sponsors after that, or because you rode for BA, but was that like?
yeah, I think I had BA, and then maybe I had some body glove sponsorship through the shop at the time, or something like that. Can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that your guys' like hangout, the beach break?
In the summers it would. So like I'm so far removed from there, right?
Yeah.
On a daily, because then I go back to my world, which is 15-20 minutes away from all this whole thing, across from the airport, and then it's soccer. My life. Like there's no one surfing when I'm going to school. Like my elementary school.
No partners in crime. Like
once those kids left, and then I had a couple of the older guys who I got to meet, you know, but they were because they drove. So once I started getting the guys that could give me rides, my parents would drop me off at the beach, and I'd just have to hitch rides back to. And it was through a little crew of guys like Ron, how I ended up meeting Ron. You know Ron too.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up meeting. He's like
Ron
3.
Palomino?
Yeah, he's 3 years older than me.
RGP?
Yeah.
RGP.
So,
And Cody?
Mr.
and Cody,
Smiles.
yeah. So they're older than me, so I could get rides back. And do you ever meet Roy? He's one of your Filipino brethren. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember kind of, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't totally remember.
He's Venice.
So when did you get introduced to those guys?
When
And
just
they're
at the beach.
Westchester, right?
Yeah, Westchester and Playa del Rey is like kind of the same. So Playa del Rey is just the beach part, and Westchester just kind of connects. There's no like Lincoln's kind of the loose dividing line. Like Westchester High School is like 2 blocks from my house, so it's all kind of integrated together. Yeah, so
And
It's a
those
cool little
guys
zone up there.
it's a trip.
What's that?
Westchester up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter lives off 83rd. And
Does she go to LMU?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, she does.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm
So
like
good.
cruising like the neighborhoods. I'm like, fuck, there's some like cool little like old school ranch. I mean, obviously it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
melting pot of like, upgrades here and there, but
Well, that was like the last beach community. It's that on the west, or the last West Side community
Yeah.
that the prices took a while because it's LA County or in LA City, and so it's LA City schools, or you go to private school. The cops are LAPD, whereas other like El Segundo, Manhattan Beach, they all have their own cops. Santa Monica
Yeah,
even
it's
has
like-
its own cops, so it's like a
County.
different kind of thing. Yeah, growing up that way, that was fun.
So, first, do you know what like event that was in the season? Was it like the first?
First one.
No, like the September, whenever the season.
Yeah,
started,
whenever
right
it
after.
started. Yeah.
So you planned on doing the rest of the
Then I
event
just
stuff?
kept going, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, overall, the NSSA was a really kind of great experience from getting better level, right? And I think
you.
I did the Explorer and the
Open.
and I had relative success in the Explorer. I feel like I was ranked in the top 6. And it was like Ryan Simmons. I remember Troy Eckert was in there, and like Matt Patterson, and guys like yourself. And I just remember sparring with Ryan Simmons a lot for some reason. He was in my head, yeah.
Yeah, he was a good competitor for
Yeah,
sure.
he was good.
Feisty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
Well, I mean, we were just, celebrating, Greg Browning's inductee, last weekend. And I mean, I remember him showing up the big NSSA logos on national team, and like, Ryan Simmons was one of them. Like you saw those guys with the big logo, like national team member. You're like, oh fuck, all right, these guys are serious.
They're
gonna paddle around you, and they know how to freaking hustle. And
Jeff Browning, Greg's brother, just sent me that.
Oh yeah, that's
That's
so. I got
sick.
an interesting story. So I did
good.
I think
have to
freshman.
post that.
I remember that specifically. I surfed them freshman and sophomore year, and then I remember going to the beach like after like junior year in the fall, and the waves were closed out. The guys that I'd surf with, they were like juniors and seniors because they used to give me rides. They all aged out of the high school, so like I was like remember being the only guy, and the waves are completely walled. And then all these Manhattan Beach guys, they're on their own program because they're down in Manhattan and stuff like that. And I just went, this sucks, and da-da-da-da. And then junior year, which probably set me back from a surfing level, I just got in a lot of trouble. And then to get out of the trouble, I started playing soccer because I feel like I needed that discipline, like show up here, do this, and then that time. And then so after that year, I was like, oh, I want to go surf again. So then senior year, I came back, first contest of the year, I saw Greg doing, they called him Jerry curls. I'm like, wow, look at Greg, he's ripping, he's on the national team. I can remember that exact wetsuit and the whole thing, yeah.
So wait, you took a hiatus from surfing?
For a year, yeah.
Wow.
For a school year almost.
Yeah.
Dang.
Because you were getting in trouble.
Yeah.
What kind of trouble?
Ditching or just?
No, I was like good. I could. My education's like the most important thing in my family, so I definitely wasn't missing school. But like, and I wasn't doing drugs. But doing a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
just
I got arrested.
adolescent.
I got handcuffed in my classroom at 16 years old and taken to the station for just stupid shit.
Thug life over here.
Yeah.
Riff
so-
raff.
Yeah, and just realized obviously that's not the way to go, and that's kind of the theme of surfing, right? Going back to it was kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
this is like healthy. This
Savior.
is a safety. Even now, when I want to do other things and maybe don't surf for a month or two, I'm kind of like, well, I need my safety blanket. I need to go back. Maybe I should go talk to a therapist about that. But it seems like
getting up at the crack of dawn, getting that energy out, like again, it's kind of a crazy schedule, like surf before school. I mean, most sports, kids like organized sports, like you're not working out before school. Yeah, there was they're all afternoons or evenings, and like
there was no surf team or any of that. No rides down. So I remember like freshman, sophomore year, kids were starting to go to parties and stuff. I wasn't that interested, and then because I was just like, I want to wake up and surf. So to your point, when I think the contest doing pretty good, I kind of had the bug. I felt like this was the good, and then I kind of strayed from it to see what else was kind of out there, and didn't necessarily like what I see or didn't have a good handle on it, and then went back to it for senior year as well.
Well, you're
Did
traveling.
you go back into contests?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, and then I got I feel like I got a Rusty sponsorship after that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and went down through Surf Concepts. I think it was at the time. Yeah, as well.
Did you ride for Surf Concepts?
I did. Yeah, and that's where I ended up working for a while as well.
Okay.
I mean, none of this is going in any type of sequential order because I'm bouncing
No,
all over
it's
in my
fine.
head. Yeah,
Dude,
but
Surf Concepts was rad.
yeah.
Was it always in that spot that they
No, it
rode?
moved.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
on Manhattan Beach Boulevard, and then it moved to Sepulveda.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then they added a location at one point down in Redondo
Yes,
You
when
know?
the industry boomed.
when the boom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eric, I still talk to.
Eric.
He actually does my insurance for
Okay.
here. So, yeah,
Cool.
that was a good time in that. And earlier, when I was a sophomore, that was probably one of my best NSSA years. I feel like maybe this guy Nick Brown. Do you remember that name?
Yeah.
He was right in there with Pat O'Connell, Taylor Knox, national team, and I used to get rides from him. And one summer, I surfed with him every summer. And Greg even told me the other day, he's like, oh, when you were surfing with Nick, you guys were just like, we were like worried about what was going to happen, and stuff like that. But man, I couldn't sit in the front seat if I didn't make the final. So he put the trophy in the front seat because he pretty much made every final,
That is
NSSA or
hilarious.
Explorer. So I had to
He's
sit
all-
in the back.
like,
Yeah.
You don't get a trophy, you're not sitting in front.
Yeah,
you're sitting
totally.
in the back like trophies over
He had like a
front.
little Scirocco or some shit.
That
So it
is
was all like stuffed in the
hilarious.
back. Yeah.
There's some good
Like tough
surfers
left.
coming out of we talk about
Ty
this a lot.
Suker, there's a lot of good. I
Yeah.
mean, Kelly, obviously,
Yeah.
later Kelly and Ted are older, but those were the guys far away. I remember when Ted Robinson brought Derek Ho to like El Porto one day, and then of course there's Frohoff. I mean, he's made the finals of pipe. You know, like not many people can say that.
And he was on the podium at Bud Tours like all the time
Yeah,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember Robinson, Frohoff, like those dudes in my age bracket that were freaking just the best goofy foots around.
Right.
And always getting shots in the mags.
Right.
Yeah.
Mags.
So you said, what was your first job?
My very first job, like in general, Cheesecake Factory.
Nice.
Well, probably prior to that, I'd worked in the warehouse doing stuff like that for the family business.
Yeah, worked for dad or family.
Yeah. But then Cheesecake Factory. I think you said this in one of your podcasts. I did skim through and try to do a little bit of background. I was like, I'm going to go on, out of the summer I'm working, I'm going to go 2 weeks to go on a trip. And they're like, no, that doesn't work. So I just walked out.
Dude, it was like, you got the schedule, and unless you got somebody to fill those slots, like, those are yours.
Right.
We're not changing it unless you find somebody to fill. I'm like begging and choosing. I'm like, dude. Like,
and then that was kind of the spark of like, try to get jobs that you can still surf.
Yeah.
Which is more challenging than it appears to be, right?
Yeah.
And so from there on, I think I've kind of designed this lifestyle where we sit now is around that, right? So,
How was cheese? Were you bussing or what were you doing?
it was weird. Yeah, you bust pretty much, but you had to serve the food. So it was down in the bar area, and that's where they keep throwing more stuff on us. So like the servers only took orders, and then you deliver the cheesecakes. I think everything except the drinks you deliver, but it was only appetizers and cheesecake. It wasn't the full meals.
At the bar.
Down in the bar area in Marina Del Rey. Yeah. And so
cheesecake's good.
Cheesecake Factory is one of my favorite.
is
But-
it?
Yeah.
I haven't eaten. I used
I
to
haven't-
eat so much cheesecake that summer.
Well, I haven't, it's one of those spots where it's like,
But
it's not a go-to if you're traveling and you're like, picking. Oh, maybe we'll go. It's one. I don't need it often. Maybe
I don't
once a year.
eat it hardly
maybe.
ever. But when I first started dating my wife, that was our spot.
Well, yeah, because
One
it's
of them.
movie night and they're right next to the movies. You're gonna
Oh.
go drop $100 there and $100 at the movie
I think
theater.
my first date with my wife was Cheesecake Factory.
Really?
Yeah, and then I took her whatchamacallit?
Go-kart?
Go-kart, yeah.
That's not a bad date. Then.
Yeah.
Dude,
You're a
Hook,
Mac
line,
Daddy,
sinker.
huh? Mac
you
Daddy.
let her win.
Did you brush your hair that night? Or
You let
no?
her win.
Never. Did you brush your hair? How dare you?
Now they spend their weekends, Bed Bath and Beyond, and I don't know. If you're fine. I'm just
that,
kidding. That place
Depends
closed.
on if I.
That place
That
We have
old
enough
school.
time.
Yeah.
That quote from old school.
Yeah.
Will Ferrell's like, the wife's got a good day for us tomorrow. The first sip tastes so good.
So contests, and then when did you think you wanted to be pro, or like?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that. I was kind of just surfing to surf because that's what you did. And I never had, I don't know if I ever thought in my head I wanted to be pro. I wanted to keep progressing in surfing, but I also was thinking maybe I didn't believe in myself too. I remember I made the U.S. championships, I think, whenever they were in Oceanside, and I showed up and Slater was in my first heat. And he was just on the cover of the magazine with the spray, and I didn't make it out of that heat. And I think there was another U.S. championships at the pier, and it was real big and sweeping. I don't know, do you remember this one? I think it was. And didn't, so I just kind of, but I also believe if you just kind of kept going at things, you kind of keep progressing too. So
Yeah.
I didn't have I'm going to be a pro surfer. I didn't even understand what a pro surfer looked like and how you did it because I didn't feel like I had any mentorship in that way.
Yeah.
And from a business perspective, I didn't know how to deal with the companies or any of that. That's just on me, right? Like a learning experience and stuff.
Yeah.
And also surfing, I looked like my dad was a businessman. He's like, if you're going to do something, you got to do it really well. And my mom's more athletic. And it was surfing. I felt this escape, like my escape from him and his pressure, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think, surfing's great at releasing, stress and whatever's going on in your life. And
plus, pro
an
surfing
outlet.
wasn't like an industry.
my parents' trip, yeah, you're going to be a pro surfer? Is that a thing? And this is late 80s, and I'm diehard. I'm I'm gonna be a pro surfer. No,
But Greg Browning, right? Who is, he was a star,
yeah.
A surf star from the South Bay. And you would always see him in the mags, and you start seeing him in,
But he kind of paved that free surf thing. He wasn't a star because of his contest results, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he had the base, right? He did
Yeah.
really well in NSSAs
Yeah.
and he did all that. But yeah, for me personally, I did NSSAs. I think the best result I ever had in the Open, which is kind of the one you want to do good in, was a second in Travis Molina. That guy had great style.
Yeah.
But Rob Machado, I don't think showed up that time, right? And I remember Janice coming up to me after, you finally cracked it, because I would make the semifinals, make the quarters, and never could crack because it was, once you got tight down, it was really good surfers.
I remember you at contests.
Yeah.
There's a lot of competitors.
Oh, now he remembers you.
No,
First I heard that.
I remember, certain names, you brought up Pat Moss. Pat Moss was that guy's going to make finals. He's a pit bull and he rips, and the Struthers brothers.
Yeah.
And Kieran Horn and,
Yeah, because you guys are
Molloy's
same
and
age.
Greg. And, there wasn't a ton, Ryan, there wasn't a ton of names that, were consistent,
No. But that year, I remember Rob going through the Open season. I don't think he lost the heat. Shane Stoneman, that was another guy who ripped.
Yeah.
He was the one who would I felt press Rob. Do you feel like you ever pressed Rob? I don't. No.
I think I beat him at one Oakley
Team
event
challenge.
at 54.
Right.
No, it was an Oakley something. I don't even know, but
Yeah.
I beat him somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe because of all the Quicksilver workouts there, and I just knew it was shitty, and they didn't see me
That's
in the
the beauty
glare.
of-
And
yeah, beauty
in the
of
glare, he went left, and
But
But
you,
with surfing with these guys, I think carried on my confidence that I could mix it up a little
Yeah.
bit. And then I always had this weird excuse in my head, which is look at all the opportunities they're getting, and I'm not, and I'm still right in the mix. But I
Yeah.
don't know if that's valid or not, but
were you trying to be free surfer too, trying to get shots in the mag?
No, I didn't do that. I was round balzer. Greg would bring, well, this is later. We're skipping way ahead, but Greg would bring those guys up, and I'd sometimes be out in the sessions with them.
Yeah.
But I always thought, you know, I was so trained to like make a good wave, and they're like,
Go pull on the
flinging tail and not, you know,
Making it, but getting a shot.
getting the
yeah.
epic shots.
We're
you
gonna
know?
go pull in it, closeouts at Hammerland and get the freaking
Yeah.
sick barrel of the winter. You know, it's
Yeah, Balzer's gotten a lot of good covers in shitty surf,
Yeah.
dude.
right?
Well, they're good photos,
They're
right?
killer photos.
They're good photos.
Yeah, crisp, clean,
Yeah.
but he made
Yeah.
the lighting and his photography skills made the waves look fucking amazing.
Right.
Yeah, you're just snipping a millisecond, you know,
Right.
Yeah.
like with all that great qualities of color on the board and
D-Ball's
positioning.
cover.
So sick.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
At Manhattan Beach Pier, right?
Craig's
All
like
the guys started
50-50
coming up,
blowtails.
yeah.
I
I think it's the point, like, I can't keep submitting just Greg, right?
Yeah.
Someone else needs to come up and get
Yeah.
a photo.
Yeah,
And I
we-
never stepped into that kind of role.
Yeah, you get the call like, you know, Balzer, you know, come up,
Yeah.
it's gonna be good tomorrow. Meaning like a rideable wave into the
Yeah.
pier, close out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just try to get tail high, you know,
Right.
just try to go and tail high. Like he
Yeah.
would tell you, like this is
He had
what's
that
gonna
angle
work.
off the
Yeah.
pier. It's awesome.
Either a barrel or you need to get that board above the lip, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I don't know why I didn't like try to do that. I was thinking, I'm like, why didn't I?
what
it
was your
there?
what was your first like good clothing like or main sponsor?
I think it was
outside of
Rusty. It was
Rusty.
surf and clothing at that time.
Okay.
But I didn't wear surf clothes, so that like the
Yeah,
boards
'cause
were
you were-
insane.
Because you and Cody and RGP were more like hip hop dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. More.
I mean, my
Silent.
school was super mixed. Like I was a minority at high school and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Which is, I just went to my 30-year reunion in Inglewood. It was freaking awesome.
Inglewood?
Yes, it was a good party.
Where'd you go? Inglewood High?
No, I went to St. Bernard's, a Catholic school, and it was fun stuff. But it was like Baldwin Hills. There's a lot of people from there go there.
Yeah.
Westchester.
So did you actually turn pro?
I don't know. I've won. I was thinking about this if you were going to ask this question. So I did that senior year. I did really good in the Open and the Explorer. I don't know what really good means, but I feel like I was in the top 6 maybe in both or something like that. I'd have to look back, maybe not. But and then the year after I moved down here for freshman year of high school. That's how I kind of met all our freshman year of college.
Okay.
Yeah, because my dad was pushing the college thing,
Yeah.
and I think I did NSSA's that year too, and I was like, I'm going to try to be on the national team. And then I remember going to the banquet, didn't make the national team, or maybe that was my senior year, one of the two. And I just walked out, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not doing pro contests anymore.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like in the scene. I was by myself there and sitting
So,
around. And then
where did you
I
live?
started doing Bud Tours at the same, because back then you could just kind of enter Bud Tours. Some of the money would come from me, some I'd work for, some my dad would sponsor me on, some I'd get a little money from some sort of sponsor.
Yeah.
And I started doing Bud Tours, and but also the CSAs and like the local contests
Yeah.
here.
there were so many events back then.
Yeah.
There was.
Like you could surf an event every weekend.
I surfed with Scott Vanderripe today, and he said to ask you if you rode for Split or not.
I did.
You did?
Yes, it's because of Gus.
Gus Buckner.
Yeah, I think we're a year coming up, like, so like freshman, sophomore year. So then I was down here surfing a lot, which was
Yeah, that's when we
awesome
started
at the
seeing you,
Oak Crew.
right?
And like, that was another thing. I was doing the Bud Tours, and there was one at Trestles, and Ryan Keenan I was surfing with him a little bit. And he introduced me to Paul Gomez, and then Cody's roommate, I think the guy, was it Kyle, was like the
Yeah.
accountant at Billabong.
Yeah.
And then I
Kyle
made it
Sakata.
through. Yeah, I made it through like 5 heats at lowers. They introduced me to Paul Gomez, and he like said, "Call me next week." And he was like, "But I
Yeah,
didn't."
on Billabong?
But I didn't. I don't know why. I haven't figured this out in my head, but maybe it was just like,
How rad.
And how'd you Buckner?
I don't know if he's going to sponsor me. We just talked like it was an opportunity, and I
Yeah.
didn't take advantage of it. But I think now I like would never not take advantage of, at least chat through those experiences.
I mean,
and that. But that was like my experience of not knowing what to do or how this whole thing
Yeah.
works or anything.
That's just part of growing up. Like, you know, you don't want to go into a meeting and just get like teased or let down, you know? So you're
Yeah.
like, I'm just not going to go.
Yeah.
Then, then it's like the easy out. Like,
Yeah.
but hindsight, it's always good to make those
Yeah.
connections.
So Cody and Ron, they started working at HSS,
Yes.
right? And then that's how you started coming around.
Well, they were living down here, and I was going to Long Beach, and I went to Long Beach State. And instead of going and living in like the dorms, I just came down and lived with them.
Yeah.
Which was a complete disaster as far as like going to school.
Yeah, perfect on really living life.
I lived with Cody for a little bit.
Did you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I met
And
you. was through
RGP.
Cody, yeah. And I used to go hang out in
At
the
that
Warner
second
store, and we
story.
used to, Tsunami would serve us beers at 18 years old, and we used to watch basketball and hang out. And it blows out in the afternoon, so you surf all morning, then you watch, have a couple beers, and yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. So you're going to
That's
college.
like 92.
What were you going to college for?
I don't know, because my parents told me I should. That's the problem, right? In this day and age, like, why are you here? So you had to take. It's basically an extension of high school, so you're taking all the same
AA
classes. Yeah, totally.
But you're going Long Beach State.
Long Beach State.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is a credible.
Yeah.
Now I heard it's really hard to get into.
I heard all the state schools are like San Diego State's hard. Too,
Yeah,
as well.
because privates are everything's so expensive.
There's so many people too.
Yeah. They all get like that.
So what?
Okay.
Besides surfing, what were your interests? Like, what were you?
Oh well, then we started DJing, right? That was a big change, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
DJ Jim O'Brien.
Yeah. I actually hooked up with Alper and Hardchark, and we had a little rap group, and one of our claims to fame is we opened for Sublime at Old World.
No.
And I talked to Bradley that night.
Remember Alper told us that story?
Yeah.
I forgot you were in the mix.
Yeah, I was the DJ. I brought all the beats, the turntables, the ones and twos.
You were scratching.
Yep, totally. Yeah.
Wow, the good old days.
And then I was about to flunk out of college the first year. I got like a D, an F, and then like a C. And my dad's like, "You're going to the military," and I'm like, "Oh, give me one more chance." So I moved back home. I moved back home and tried to straighten it up, but then I kept surfing, and then I was doing surf concepts.
Can't make me go to the military when I'm out of the country.
Yeah, totally. And then I hooked up with Cody and this guy Jerry. Did you ever meet Jerry?
Jerry.
Oh yeah, he was one of our gangster buddies, and we had we recorded a little demo tape as well. And I started DJing parties, but a lot of them were like breaking out in crazy shit, and we're like trying to escape and stuff like that. You know, like fights would break
Gangs
out
and shit.
Yeah, just all kinds of stuff. It was fun. And then I DJ'd one back down here. I think it was some Wheat and Merino put together, and it was like
Atmosphere.
in Newport. And they put me on the ones and twos, and I went and I put the headphones on, and they were loose, and I bent over to put the vinyl on, and the fucking headphones fell off. Dropped the needle off, the whole fucking club went silent on my first song. I was like, "Oh fuck!" That was funny.
Dude, those were funny. Like the fashion and the music, worlds collided.
Right.
Like when
90s
the song
hip-hop.
that the band House of Pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was like the band or the group
Right.
during that time.
Yeah.
Jump Around.
For me, like NWA came out when I was a freshman in high school,
Yeah.
and I had Run DMC before that, and Beastie Boys. I was
Sure.
like always on the hip hop, but I liked other music too. But I really liked the hip hop. And then when I was in high school, De La Soul, like my school, all the guys like De La Soul. There's
Yeah.
so many high top fades the guys had, and the whole deal.
But it was such a trip because you guys were the first like white kids that were like hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In the surf scene.
In the surf scene.
Well, my freshman year of high school, we bought like 36. You know, I was tiny, 36, and they were buckled up and Vans and all pleated. It was we had to wear uniforms. That's why I don't know if the clothing thing was like the sponsor thing wasn't as.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I was getting street cred for being sponsored. Maybe when I'm in Manhattan Beach, but I'm
Nobody
not there
cared.
all the time,
Yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
like so removed over here, living
And
the
you
soul
gotta
of the
wear
world.
what fit in.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you guys were so different from the kids that were growing up in Orange County.
Yeah.
You know, like there wasn't any dudes that were bebopping fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Like
I didn't.
Cody,
Yeah.
Cody was like, he got hired to dance at clubs and shit.
Yeah.
So
we used to go to nightclubs. We would go with us too and dance. Cody, we used to break dance in Venice Beach on the front there. Cody was good. He had skills.
Yeah.
That's why his nickname's the White Monkey. I don't know if we could say that on
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He's
funny.
got moves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
sounds
like
Cody's been through every nationality of lady. Like that's his thing. He's married to Brazilian now, but he's like
No
he
way.
went around the world and figured out Brazil was the one he liked.
I remember Cody, some Filipino girl. One
Tracy.
girl was Tracy.
She was
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah. And then
Crazy.
I remember surfing trestles or lowers with him, and we went to Pedro's. And he freaking got the number.
And then we
from
started
the
hanging out
Pedro's
with
girl.
all. Then we started hanging out with all the essays from San Clemente
Yeah.
13. We're down there with all the guys from LA, and we're on the street
And Cody's
drinking
like
40s.
the whitest white,
Yeah.
freckled
But
face,
he could speak
blonde.
Spanish.
Yeah,
Yeah, fluent in Spanish.
People would trip. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he'd walk up. He'd look like an Irishman.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he starts busting out Spanish or Portuguese or whatever. You're just like, what?
Yeah, I remember being down with all those guys and listening to
I
all
remember
these-
going to a club with him, Lockie, Master Paulo,
Oh yeah, Stro used to go to all the ones. You're talking the older Stro.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
and dude, those were gnarly.
yeah.
And I remember, we didn't get in fights, but it was like we got lost.
Right.
We lost our car, you know, and it took us forever. Like Master Paulo was like, I think he parked the car and he forgot where he parked it.
Yeah.
And we're like, what the fuck? And we were walking around LA forever.
Right.
But it was one of those parties that it was like a rave, like a huge underground.
But it was
kind
probably
of-
all hip hop back then. It wasn't.
was.
It wasn't ravey techno music.
I don't even remember. I don't think it was a rave, but it was
There
like
are warehouse parties that
tons
Yeah.
of rooms,
Yeah.
right? Where it was like different everywhere.
Yeah.
You're just like, whoa, this is.
We just go
Underground.
dance. Like when I go out, I'd drink a little, but I wasn't doing any kind of other stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd be dancing and a couple of drinks and
Oh, yeah,
it was so
ladies.
fun. Yeah,
But yeah,
Yeah.
that was a funny cultural.
time. 92, 93.
Yeah.
Rodney King riots, LA riots,
Yeah.
all that popped off then.
There are so many good places to party though.
Oh my gosh.
Like every night of the week within like,
Well, Wheat and the
You didn't-
boys,
they
Marino
have their
used to
fair
throw
share.
some gnarly
Yeah.
clubs, Atmosphere, right?
yeah, we went through the list one time of like all the different spots. Obviously
Chester
some
Drawers.
rotated, but it would be like, oh, Wednesday night was this and Thursday night was there. And
Yeah.
there was all these different clubs and we're like, fuck, we had a good time.
Yeah, it's
And-
fun to have fun.
What was your first like out of country surf trip?
Ooh.
Fam,
We traveled a lot as kids, right? So that we were fortunate enough. So I traveled to other countries that are surf destinations I never surfed. Like I'd been to Costa Rica
with the family
with the family
before you surf.
before I surfed.
Fuck.
But my dad had become friends. He was trying to do some business down there with one of the guys from Costa Rica. Like he's married to a Costa Rican lady now and lives part-time down there. So he's always had that connection with Costa Rica. And so when we were on the way back, I happened to sit next to a guy, a surfer guy. He had no bags, and I think he put everything in surfboard bags. So I started talking to him. I'm like, Dad, he says there's waves down. He's like, there's no waves in Costa Rica, I'm like, no, he's telling me there's waves. So
Okay.
I think we went down. I was probably a junior in high school, maybe, or sophomore or something. We went down, and I couldn't drive, so probably I was a sophomore, and we went down and surfed Costa Rica. That might have been the first one, I think. But we used to go to Rosarito a lot, so I'd surf Rosarito around there. My mom, like at 14, 15, would let me take the car. She'd be posted up the Rosarito Beach Hotel. Me and my buddies would take the car and go surf K38 or go
Yeah.
surf La Fonda or something like that, It's
And
crazy.
being in Mexico,
Yeah.
just that Rosarita,
Yeah.
you feel like you're in a different country. Like you are, but it's so close.
So
you're
it's
like,
one of the few places like you cross this border and,
And
your
you're
whole
there.
vibe changes,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
like, oh, you like thinking about a beer, this offshore winds, the potential for surf, right?
yeah,
There's so much.
A lot of nooks and crannies, where it's like they're not these big built up. K38, was kind of like, hey, it's a legit, Calafia.
Fonda.
Well, coming from a
Yeah.
beach
Yeah.
break, trying to surf a point break.
But
Yeah.
like around every bend, you're like, that's a wave and that's a wave,
Yeah.
like you're
Baja
just
Malibu.
Hawkeye.
I
in the
wonder if
hole.
that's a wave. That's like the first kind of adventure trips. You're like,
Like-
I wonder, can you ride that? How does
Yeah.
that work?
That
Baja
was-
Malibu was so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like
And it is good. I think it still gets good. I haven't been down in a
I haven't
while.
been there
Yeah.
so long.
so good.
But yeah, then I started trying to do the Bud tours, and while I was going to college, so I think I was back to your pro surf. I was never like totally focused on just surf, And the Bud Tours, the challenge was every year first contest was at Steamer Lane, which I don't know how you are. I find that wave very hard to surf.
Very hard to surf.
It's hard. It's easy when you get on the wave, but getting the right wave is hard.
Yeah. I did takeoff.
And then also it's like, do I wear booties? Am I not wearing booties? Coming from SoCal.
Yeah.
For some reason, I did pretty well up there, but
nice.
yeah, but it was definitely a challenging wave.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't. I was like every time I'd go like lose the first get behind, but
it's
one
hard.
takeoff spot pretty much, like up against.
Well, it has the
cliff,
one
and it's
over
small,
too, right? And then the wedge. And
I think it was because maybe because there was NSSAs up there when we were young, and I just surfed it more than other people.
So you went and did the other division of NSSAs then, right? Because the NSSA there was a southern, and then that was
I
north.
did,
You did it all
yeah,
then.
yeah. I kind of
You must have went up top.
Did a
Because when you said
bunch
like
of
Kieran Horn, he's like a Santa Cruz guy.
yeah, Omar Echeverry.
Yeah,
and
Omar and Homer
Josh
Hernard.
Homer,
Julian Seacon.
Julian
Yeah, all those
Seacon.
guys.
Those
And
were like
Homer, Josh Mulcoy.
Josh Mulcoy.
Yeah.
That
He used to
was a rat
stay
pack.
with me in Huntington.
Right.
Yeah.
Mulcoy did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a hardcore surfer ocean
Still,
guy, right?
yeah.
I think I was
Lives in
up
Alaska,
there
I
on the
think,
way to
part-time.
San Francisco, and he was out kiting one of those waves by himself, and then I think he's involved in one of those camps in Southern Mex too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mulcoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, pro surfing, short lived.
Yeah, I mean, it was never. It's just I kept doing the Bud Tours, and I got I had a decent little. I mean, I was surprised. I was seated, and I made the lowers a couple rounds. I do Huntington, make a couple rounds. I went and did the South Shore. I never went. I've been a couple times to North Shore by myself, but never through like any sponsorship or never surfed a contest over there. But then realized got the bug, and then the Bud Tour closed down, and I did tried to do a leg of the QS, so that I went to Europe. I think you were over there that year
Go
too.
to some of the Europe
Because they had like five
events
within like a month almost, you
Yeah.
know? And so my brother lived in Amsterdam because he was a professional footballer, as they would call it. And so I'd take his car. So I hooked up in southern France and drove all over. And I did that 2 years in a row, I think. And that was great, but the waves sucked. The year I did it, Aki was reef qualifying. He ended up being in my heat. I was sitting next to Homer Hernard, and I remember him going, I'm like kind of intimidated. He's like, you get a chance to beat Aki. I'm like,
Right.
oh, that's a good way to look at it. The waves were like this big, but it was an interesting way. Hey, you get the opportunity to.
Yeah, I remember that year. Aki just came out of nowhere after like being kind of retired and off the beaten.
Yeah.
Off
Is
the
that
beaten path.
99, I think?
No, that's when he won the.
I think it was
world.
96.
That's when he won
95,
the world
96.
title, right?
And Taj Burrow
99 is when he won.
Taj Burrow. I've never seen someone go so fast in little waves.
Yeah.
That was to speak about pro surfing. Going there was like, wow, there's that. Like you go to your hometown, you're like, oh, there's all these guys. Then you go Southern California, you're like, wow, there's like the surfers. Then you
Yeah.
go
To the
fucking
world.
and you're like, back then you didn't hear about.
Yeah.
The guy, kind of your counterpart in
there's
Australia,
no
who surfs
YouTube,
as good
no
or better than you
Instagram.
never heard of. Yeah.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what year it was. It might have been like 96 maybe, or even earlier. Taj like pretty much won the QS and was like,
No,
yeah, I don't want it my spot. I'm gonna just.
that was the same year.
And then Aki came back and just, I don't know if he like won a bunch of events. He was just really consistent. Like he just powered through. And the other impressive person was Jake Patterson.
Right.
Oh,
Jake
God.
was his
Jake
like
the Snake.
He was literally. I remember because he would stay in Huntington at Jeff's house, and he'd be like, first heat, first round, and he would make like fucking 10 heats, and he ended up making like every final. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're like wizard in the heats, and he ended up qualifying like first year
He's like-
first year doing the QS like full time.
Right.
He made the tour like no problem.
Right.
And then
him
Taj,
and his brother charged too.
yeah, and then Taj passed up that year, and then Aki,
Yeah.
we're like looking at these people going, what the, how am I ever going to make the tour?
Right.
Yeah.
These guys are gnarly.
Really gnarly. And
And-
Mick Lowe, you wouldn't think.
Oh.
You look at him and be like, and then he won a contest that year as
Yeah.
well because they
Mick
went to
Lowe, Mick
Portugal.
Campbell.
Yeah, and I traveled with this guy. I was with Rick Massey from Venice. We went all together. And,
Did he try to make it on the tour?
He
We
did.
did the
Massey?
QS. Yeah, he had a seed in some of the Bud Tours, and
Yeah.
he had like some sponsorship now and again.
Yeah, he ripped.
Yeah,
went
he
for
did. He was
Quicksilver, right?
solid.
Yeah.
He had Quicksilver, and then when we were doing it, it was Bronze Age. We were sponsored by, so I got sponsored by Bronze Age for a while, which kind of aligned to my dress code, which I really always liked them growing up, too, or when they did it. Mike Cassell. Have you ever seen the documentary about
I haven't.
About what's
Von Dutch?
Von Dutch.
Yeah.
But Mike Cassell's actually a visionary. He's just not a great businessman, but he's
Yeah.
like
Is he
creatively
the
a
one
really
that
good
started?
Bronze Age,
Okay.
and then Von Dutch with him and Bobby, and then he had Stronghold. They still have that on Venice, the jean company. I don't think he's doing too well right now, but his brother's in the skate industry, and he's been like solid. So
Cool.
Yeah. What a trip. So you did a couple years on the QS.
while going to college, yeah,
Okay.
so it was like a mix.
And then did you figure out what you were taking or?
So I thought
doing
I
for
came
college?
back from that year. I'm like, I'm going to try to do this, even though like the waves were small. But I think I got the travel bug a little more than the QS. But it was like, I guess, trying to answer your pro surf question, I was like, I want to keep surfing, and I think how you keep surfing is the surf contests, right? Like obviously Greg Browning paved this path that I wasn't gonna be able to do. Like, so that's the only way I kind of knew. And then I came back and I started working at SurfCon. For a while, I veered off because I thought I wanted to be in the movie business. So I tried a little of that and realized that wasn't for
Whoa.
me.
For what?
Active?
Like acting or?
Well, I took acting classes, but you start at the beginning there. So like I was PA, like, oh, wait over there and ask that guy if he wants coffee every hour. I'm like, well, I want to learn something and do something.
Yeah.
So I did some lighting, some grip work. That's super common where I grew up. A lot of guys work in the movie industry,
Yeah.
because it's not that
Obi
far.
One's like, look at this. Like, I'm Brad Pitt.
Not back then, dude.
I can remember a line.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a PA material. This is freaking.
Right. Well, it was all those ways. Like then it was like,
But that's your in, is being like around all those people.
yeah.
And,
Like
and
I had
being-
buddies who were like, oh, come on this job with me. Hey, you want to work tomorrow for this amount of money? You want to do this? And
Yeah.
And then it was inconsistent. And then you also couldn't be flexible for a swell or any of that kind of surfing stuff. So then I went and worked at a surf shop, which my dad, because he had just finished college, was like pushing me to get out of. And then the reps would come in, and I'm like, what do those guys do? And Eric explained to me what they do, and I'm like, some light bulb went off. It's like, oh, flexible schedule, you can make good money, you can do that. And this is like what, 96, 7-ish, 98, where it's all kind of just coming to the beginning of it.
And the
We skipped over a
industry
ton of
was
stuff.
we were coming out of a recession pretty much.
Yeah.
And new brands were popping up, right?
Well, the new brands that kind of popped up a few years earlier, they were just starting to kind of like solidify.
Take steam.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So who were the reps that you were like seeing?
All of them, whoever was a rep then. I mean, it was always the main guys that come through, but anyone who rep back then was always the big
But who
one.
was like the guy that you're like, fuck, Lockie or fucking?
I don't think
whoever?
Lockie did LA, did he?
Okay.
But
I don't think he did.
I just
Huh?
met him. I mean, GT launched Globe while I was
Oh,
there, and he was
gosh.
fun, obviously, to talk to. What's the guy who did DVS? I think he's from Huntington Forever, and they were doing really well.
Tom Winchell.
Winchell,
Yeah.
There's a couple other guys like that, but then there was the local guys. Matt Walls was repping
Yeah.
at the time, and Kelly Gibson was repping at the time. Ted, I think, was repping at that time as well. And
So they're
Pat,
like, dude,
and then Walls hired me to rep for him,
sub rep.
sub rep. Yep.
And what was he?
because
What brands was he?
he was doing Ezekiel, but Ezekiel, I think you were still on Ezekiel at this point. I don't know if you had split, but Ezekiel was Ezekiel, Castell Shoes, Blonde, and Spare. They had all these different brands at the
Dude,
time.
yeah.
And then Walls did OAM too, so he hired me to kind of just count shoes and do
Can we
OAM.
go back on that too? Like how gnarly Vinny De La Pena, and that was like, he was like one of the first guys outside of skateboarding that created a company and then started sprouting out companies within a company.
Yeah.
You know, like other companies did it in different industries and stuff, but in art, you know, in surf and skate, like he was like one of the first entrepreneurs to kind of do that. And he did it with snowboarding and skateboarding
Yep.
and surfing. And they were all like, at one point in time, had some hits.
Yep.
Castell Shoes was like one of the first like endemic skate shoes.
Right.
And then Blonde.
Well, it's funny because he kind of came with a skate vibe with his whole look and feel of all his brands.
Yeah. But Ezekiel, like, you know, that brand was pretty fucking sick.
I mean, I owe a lot to, not owe, but I like appreciate and grateful a lot for my experience at Ezekiel
Yeah.
and Vinny and all that. It's been amazing.
His aesthetic was like kind of Americana,
Yep.
and then like it tried to be sophisticated surf.
Those guys made me cut my mullet. Screw them. Just kidding.
Lar did what was that? There was like a stack of jeans.
Yeah.
That was a sick ad.
Yeah, he had a good vision for jeans. I remember that
They
ad
had
too.
like a lot of
Where you're, like, kind of
eye-catching like ads. Like not like let's
Yeah.
just don't do a surf. If
And
we
then-
do, it's kind of in the.
And then the one you were in a suit.
I was in a suit and tie and chair.
It sounds silly too, but they got known for soft, nice cargo pants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, like,
Oh, I think they were kind of the first to
Yeah.
do it in
well, the
surf.
timing
Yeah.
The
lined
cargo,
up. Yeah.
the cargo pant,
Yeah. I had a
and
lot
the
of-
jerseys. Remember, like the basketball mesh shit that was
Yeah.
popping. I think they kind of helped usher that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the blonde thing, I mean, the skate shoe thing was pretty successful. But remember, like the blonde shirts. Like, remember?
No, I don't remember the shirt
Dude,
specifically.
it's a snowboarding brand,
Yeah.
right? But I remember like people tripping on the blonde shirts because it was like hot girls that were blonde,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
you know, and it said blonde, and you're like, wait,
By the
this-
time
what,
I was selling it, they only
what
had,
is this? Like, what
Yeah.
what is this?
Yeah.
And people were like buying stacks of it.
I just remember coming back and I'm like, wait, we got snow gear now. We got shoes, you know, because I'd be gone and come back to the office and be like, what? There's fucking thousands of boxes of shoes back here.
Yeah.
And snow
That's
gear.
like
Yeah,
a
go
lesson.
grab whatever you want. And I'm like,
That's
you
a
know,
lesson I've learned because you could argue they expanded into too many categories
For
too
sure.
quick, and you can only focus on a certain amount of things. And they had a lot of good
They
things
went-
going, right? And that's
It's-
unfortunately why they had to get
Yeah, if
different
you
type
don't
of
staff
financing.
well and have the right people in your staff
Right.
for their
But
roles,
you only have a bandwidth to focus on so many things.
Yeah.
Like we've tried things here that haven't worked. And
but
it's
all
like
those
tricky.
industries were exploding at that time. So they were just like,
So
strike
you-
it what's hot. But yeah,
So it cushions what's happening until
but tough.
so
But they
Matt
actually-
Walls,
Matt Walls, and then I sub rep for him, and so I was working at the shop, and I worked for him like 2 days. So I work like Sunday through Wednesday, and work for him Thursday for Friday, and have Saturdays off, and I just go count products, so I could meet all the store owners and that kind of thing.
and what was your
And-
territory?
We were
LA.
pretty much South Bay. I think we started at Caton all the way to
Santa Barbara. Go leave.
Santa Barbara. Yeah, I don't think we did. We didn't do San Luis, and then something. I think they stopped doing Castell and stopped doing Blonde or something like that. And he's like, "Oh, I can't hire you." I'm like, "Dude, I'll just work for free. I know this is gonna lead to something." So I started.
awesome.
I started just doing it, and then he got picked up Dragon. And then he needed me, so I kept working for him. And then that was the time where everyone wanted you to only rep one brand. So then Dragon gave him a deal to rep. So then I got Ezekiel, and I got OAM. So Ezekiel and OAM were mine. And then quickly after, I picked up Sector 9, and it was off to the races.
At
But
the
it was
beginning
small.
of Sector 9?
But I mean, like my territory did like Ezekiel did like 80 grand when I took it over. Yeah, over for a year, and then it just grew way up.
Crazy.
Crazy. And so I was like,
And you were at the ground level of Sector 9.
no, not at the ground level. They were already established.
Okay.
Matt Bovard got pressured into only doing an
O'Neill.
O'Neill. And so Sector 9, and I already knew the Sector 9 guys. And so I called them up, and that was like one of the best jobs I ever had.
Yeah.
You couldn't deliver fast enough. Like,
At
you
that
know?
point in
The
time.
checks
Yeah.
weren't huge, but the vibe, the company, it's
Yeah.
like
Well, that got
surfing
you into
life.
everything.
The
Well,
pro,
Ezekiel got me into everything. Like
Yeah.
it was
you're
cool.
everybody's best friend. Give me a skateboard, the promo
Yeah.
budget, and like, you know, just those little like
Yeah.
hookups.
Yeah.
Like,
But you gotta
oh,
have
man.
like something like that to always get you into the store. Right?
Totally. I was in stores that didn't carry Ezekiel, right?
Yeah.
Or vice versa. And I could match those things up too. So, and it's like all your different experiences lead to certain places. One of the jobs I had for my dad, I used to drive around to liquor stores and make sure the fruit bars were placed properly in the freezers, and then I work graveyard shifts and reset freezers for summers and stuff like that. So I was used to like kind of driving around to different places and walking in and talking to people. But surfing's so easy. It's like the
Hey, your
question you
coconut's
asked me,
next to the watermelon.
Yeah.
It should be next to the mango,
Yeah,
and the lime
move it
should be
around.
over here.
here's a free thing, da da da. So I had a little training for it, and then surfing's like, did you surf today? Right? That's the
Yeah.
first lead-in question, you know.
Yeah.
So
Easy barrier to break.
yeah.
I mean, sales
Well
is, it's not rocket science, but when we talk about this a lot, when you in our industry, in the surf industry, right?
You rip.
When you surf well and you're a cool guy, it's pretty easy.
Right.
I mean,
I'd add one more thing. When you have a good product you like.
of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of guys, even when I was in the shop, come in and try to hustle shit to you that you're like,
yeah, but
you know?
the thing is though, if you are a cool guy and you surf well and you have shitty product, they still buy it from you.
They do. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Not a good thing, but I mean that's kind of what happens, right? Like you people want to do business.
It's definitely a
like
relationship driven. I don't know too many other industries because I haven't been in a ton of other ones, but this one's definitely a relationship.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I haven't been in it since 05 or
It's
06.
still
but
pretty much the same. There's definitely, certain things have changed a little bit, but it's definitely like. But yeah, when you're a good surfer and you're a good funny guy and you have great product, that's the combination right there.
So I never made a clear choice to be a pro surfer, and I never made a clear choice to retire from pro surfing, but I felt like my surfing career, my relationship with surfing kind of really, that's when I kind of figured it out, because for some reason that's how I could represent surfing. Like I could provide a service to the brands because I could sell, right? So that's where I found my piece. Maybe I didn't know how to promote myself or represent them in the lineup or whatnot, but all of a sudden I growing their brands in these territories and doing that, and that kind of fit in really nice, and I'd still surf. And
that's a healthy lifestyle, like living because you're I got to beat traffic, or hey, I'm covering this part of the coast, I'm gonna go surf before the shops open up at 9 or 10.
Don't schedule any appointment till 11. They don't start till 10.
So you could kind
shops
of coordinate.
Open till 10.
And before, I mean, there was no email on your phone, right? The whole time I repped, right? So that's, I'm sure, game changer for you. So like, they expect you to get back to them a day later. We were still faxing orders in, right? It's a blessing. All the technology is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
So
if we don't have it, you're getting something else that I'm going to recommend, and you just swap out and I don't know this inventory. I don't know what got through. I pack my own boxes, go back to the warehouse, and be like, that's not going to the East Coast. That's not going to Texas. That's not going.
All right. The advantage of being a West Coast rep, right?
That didn't happen.
I didn't see you in the warehouse.
There was no, but that was it. It was, like I said, kind of a blessing and a curse, because it was a little more free, but still like same old philosophy, like count fill, hustle.
And I don't know how it is now, but then there was big breaks in between the lines. Like you take 6 weeks, 2 months to show your line and get your orders, and then you have a break between the next season, and so there's these little gaps of time, and I feel like because of the emails and all that, is a little more fast paced, maybe.
Yeah, it's way faster paced. Yeah,
we need some breaks.
Yeah.
But I knew I wanted to keep surfing at that point for sure, and that led to like
and your
the
dad,
flexibility.
And your dad was fine with you, or
I wasn't really looking for his approval at that point. I think he was happy I wasn't working in a surf shop for whatever manager. But so that so many. I mean, if we want to go into the next chapter, so many things. Back to the pro surf thing, I've done a couple pro-ams and won some money and stuff like that, and got a little money off sponsors and that. So I don't know how you classify that or whatever, but I think my thing is like being more of a hardcore kind of traveling, local, underground kind of guy, who's right next to all these things that happened, or right next to the contest when this guy did this, or the photo that this guy got, or been in the session with these guys and seen them. I mean, live surfing's insane.
At the end of the day, you're surfing, like you're right there, like you're part of it.
Right. Well, now where you're at, it's like I just enjoy still surfing, and sometimes I'm even on trips by myself. Last year I went off to Outer Island. I was out there by myself, staying in a little bamboo place, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I have kids, is this what I should be doing? But it felt good. I'm still like, keeps you healthy.
Super selfish, but
totally. Surfing's
rejuvenates
so selfish.
You. Like not just work mode, but like family mode. Like it. Yeah. What are that saying? Distance makes
fondness
the heart fonder, right?
Pretty close, I think. Something
you
like that.
These quotes now.
Did you butcher?
I kind of butchered it, but you know what I fucking mean.
But as far as surfing and getting coached, I learned a lot working at the surf shop from the industry, but I also learned about like boards and like, glass jobs, fins, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Shapers, the legacy of, the glassing shops in the South Bay, which was great. The people, and got to connect with them. But then like hooking up with Ted with the jet ski adventure was like a game changer for us. And he was right behind Gerlach and Parsons. So he was getting all the advice, and we were just like, it was like starting surfing.
Toe partners.
Yeah. We were watching a Laker game. He's like, I'm thinking of getting ski. Who's in? I'm like, I am. I raised my hand, and that was a game changer. And was like, that guy's a frother.
He's
Still,
a super drunk.
Frother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super
we got to
drunk.
get him back.
Some of the first toe sessions we did were at the base, and we do off the edge, and I'd whip him into these teepees, and he'd go around the
Point Wainimi or
Magoo.
DMJs. Magoo. Okay.
Yeah, we did DMJs too to learn too, but like you could tow at these teepees coming down the wave, and he'd come around the backside of them and come right up and just get so pitted. It was like all one rail turn because we just fling them at him.
Yeah, he's no barrel dodger. That guy is
he
just
doesn't get
a barrel.
tubed. Yeah,
he knows.
Were you surprised the first time you see him surfing a switch?
No, but that's him. Like he always needs a new challenge. So he's like, I'm going to go a month switch, or I'm just going to do this. Like now foiling, right? He's like had these iterations of surfing to just keep him going in the water, whether it's shooting photos. It's like, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I've told this story before, but I'll say it again. I'm fucking shooting. I'm running down the beach, and I can see a guy surfing regular foot. And I get to the beach, I'm stretching, I'm watching this guy surfing regular foot, front side, back side, regular foot. And I'm like, that guy looks familiar, I'm like, but I've never seen this guy before because, he's a regular footer that I don't ever see. And I surf Huntington all the time, right? So I paddle out, and I paddle up next to him, and I look, and it's Ted Robinson. And Ted is a goofy footer by nature. Yeah. But the fucking guy, I was like, Ted?
Is that you?
I go, you're switch footy?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. I go, fuck. How long you been doing that? And I go, and why are you doing that? He's like, dude,
keep your stoke alive.
Yeah. He's like, I like challenging myself. So,
Yep.
I need to learn something new. And I'm just like, you're fucking crazy.
I mean, when you're going to the surf ranch and the waves are cheap, and you're going switch, you better be fucking pretty damn confident.
Right. Is that what he's doing? I haven't been at surf ranch yet.
So you guys like became best friends and toe partners.
Yeah, like his daughter ended up being in our wedding and the whole deal. Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome.
I kind of knew that story, but
back to the repping. And he's a frother, and Ezekiel wasn't as big, so like my windows were good. We used to ditch to Mexico all the time for swells. Like we were just on swells. We'd either be in local if we could, and there wasn't so many skis then, so there was no one really worried about it. So we're kind of breaking rules, and then we were going to open beach breaks where we could find them. And then Mex was just a huge game changer for us, and we towed into outside El Porto, which is
did
big
he already have
bombs.
his house there?
That's a good question. We had friends who had houses there. I think at some point he got the house there while we started to do this.
Yeah.
I'm
surprised. I remember going to Gaviotis like twice.
Yeah.
Yep. Going to Gaviotis and then going to Splash.
Yeah.
And both times
Ted's there.
Ted's at the bar.
Yeah.
At Splash.
Yeah. He likes Mex. That's why he moved to North County so he could be closer to Mexico.
Yeah.
Smart.
Super smart. So, repping, how long did you...
Well, other huge thing that happened with repping was one day we were at a trade show and Ezekiel launched the women's line. And Vinny hired a model who's now my wife of almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So she came in and I was like, woo, kind of blown away.
She's from Huntington.
She happens to be from Huntington, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
and you know what? She used to come to the store. We used to kind of thought she was pretty.
Yeah, right. She's kind of cute. Yeah.
So you got smitten over her being a model at the booth. ASR.
Yeah, I wasn't even a model. I thought she was beautiful. I mean, you know how ASR. Like, it was like it's like
your head falls.
You're
off.
in like a different. It's not real. It's a weirdest, crazy world, right?
You got reef models. You got
you remember
bikini models.
She's famous now. The Jamaica style. You remember that?
Jamaica style.
They used to hire that Brooke Burke.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, she was like she's like 2 or 3 years older than me and you. And I just remember seeing her. I'm like, wow, she's drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamaican style.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. Vander said like that was his dream girl or something like that, and Penny got all pissed.
You know, there's lots of beautiful people out there.
Yeah.
So met your wife at that
Yeah,
trade
sorry.
show.
Yep.
Ezekiel.
Yep.
So how long did you rep for?
I think 10 plus years or something like that. Yeah.
And did your brands change or did you?
I kept the same brands and I had multiple brands. When I did have a sub rep, I picked up like Arnett and Freestyle just to kind of subsidize income, but they were like way past their heyday and weird to work for. And I usually tried to do things like I loved OAM, the product work, the whole deal. And then Sector 9 was awesome. Like for me being sales, like to represent something you really like.
Yeah.
It's just natural too. So
Yeah, it's easier to sell when you believe in it.
what changed was Vinny and those guys left Ezekiel. That was the big change.
Yeah.
And I stayed on and I got Orange County. So I did Orange County to San Luis Obispo and like my pay just went through the roof, as you can imagine. Do you do Orange
OC.
County too? No, you
I do North Orange County, so like 55 North.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the time. I mean, it's pretty much the heyday of, not the heyday, hopefully there'll be other ones, but that was like golden period. It's pretty much, you're talking like 96, 97 until I stopped in 05, 06. 06, I got paid all the way through 06.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the heyday was like, I think it stopped in 08, but like from 2000 to 2007.
Yeah.
Those
I
were
mean, there
like
were shops everywhere.
shops everywhere.
Yeah.
Booming.
Skate was huge.
Ezekiel worked into both, which
Yeah,
was perfect.
yeah.
You know,
And they had like
a good skate team.
good skate team, good cut and sew. They had made, they were more of a lifestyle brand versus just like two surf or two skate. They had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, they had a great vision for that brand. But I think what ultimately led to them having to resell and sell is because at some point they overextended themselves with all these brands. I don't know.
Yeah.
You'd have to talk to Vinny about that. But it was unfortunate it went that way. The guy who bought it did a lot of good things because he kept them alive, but he also was a micromanager. So
Steve,
yeah. So he pushed a lot of good talent out of there. So.
what
Businesses.
what
But I went on a trip with Ezekiel and Vinny to the Mentawise. Do you remember the session we had at Rifles?
Yes.
I think you were in a Speedo or something.
I was.
With a mullet.
were you still riding for
After
it?
8 hours, no. After 8 hours, they were on a Ezekiel trip and we surfed it the day before and then like you guys rolled in like an hour and a half before.
Dark.
Dark.
And you guys didn't fucking get out.
Fuck that. I had to take my board shorts off because of like just the chafing.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
Were you riding for Ruka then?
No, Stussy.
Stussy?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like one of
But-
the brands I super admire. Stussy.
But it was all time.
that was
Like you, Browning, Conan, J Star, or no, not J Star. Who else? There's
Jeremy Somerville.
Jeremy-
Remember him? He's since passed. Jeremy Height
Hyatt.
Pascal.
Yeah.
and Vinny.
Yeah. That was like
That's a good trip.
when they were all guys, we were kind of stoked. We're like, cool, like, come
Yeah.
take some waves. Like, this is ridiculous. That was when you could get waves like that with nobody else around.
How many
we were
boats?
only both.
Just you two boats?
They were by themselves.
we were there all by
we
ourselves.
heard our captain heard it was good and beelined up there.
It's a
He-
very fickle spot
Yeah,
with the winds.
he was overachieving because our boat broke, so we were stuck in Padang for like 5 days. The whole crew. Yeah.
Brutal.
Me, Conan. Yeah, we were playing like water polo and walking around and all that kind of shit. So,
That was like
Oh, Conan Hayes rode for Ezekiel too.
that was
did.
one of the most spectacular days.
it was a good one.
Yeah.
It was a really good one. That was like fast, going that fast and making it out of the barrel. And then Greg, I don't know if you ever saw the Ezekiel video at the end, he sat way down from everyone. He was like, come down here. And he was just sitting there getting barrels by himself.
Yeah, it's like 300 yard or a couple hundred yards of a section, and then it kind of lets up a little bit, and then there's another couple hundred yards of a section,
Yeah.
and each one gets shallow, and at the right tide and right size, there's a third section, but it's gonna go like fucking below sea level, and you gotta have it on the right everything. But like it was just perfect. People would just kick out because they didn't want to do the paddle And then, yeah, I remember Greg sitting down below and catching like all kinds. And you're kind of just laughing, like hooting people in. And, you know, you're looking over the shoulder as you're paddling, like he's so far, like he's making that, you know, like you're pulling in, you don't think you can make it. It was that far. You're like that much wall. And you're like, I can't believe I'm pumping. Can't believe I'm making it.
So
these guys scored.
Prepping. Quit in 06, 07.
06. So I always had this thought in my head that you book your goods out, right? So if I quit it sometimes, I'm going to have like 6 months of full play at least. So I left in February. I had booked all my goods through fall. So I got paid all the way to October, and we bought a round the world ticket, me and the wife. So, and I mean, there's so much.
What was your motive? Not motive. So you quit your job.
Mm-hmm.
You gave up repping. You go on a world trip, but what were you thinking that you're going to come back to do?
I had some work lined up, but I think before that I was like kind of just still fiending on the surf. Like my mentality had always been like, you know, you're having a back problem right now. Like as surfers, when's the time to optimize surfing is when you can move and do that. So like I'll work with my mind and earn money later in life if I need to. And I kind of saw that Ezekiel, he pushed so many good people out. It was still going. It was a great brand, but the next step for my career was to be a sales manager, and I didn't really want to work in the office. That was kind of one of the things I told myself when I was graduating college. Like, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to work in the office, and I definitely wanted to try to live in multiple places and stuff like that. So, Ange had just graduated college. She was doing a little pharmaceutical repping, and yeah, we went for it. We just charged it. So
before we get settled in, let's just go on one big hurrah.
Yeah, I mean, we had already owned a house. We rented our house out. I bought a property with a couple partners in Hawaii, and I was going to develop it, and that's what I was coming back to in a year later.
Okay.
So we had started that, but that was like just paperwork stuff. My partner is leading some of that stuff. So,
so you accumulated some properties and...
Yeah, how I had my, again, equity. My dad's like, you got to get equity. So like, what's equity? So he lent me money at a high percentage. I bought a couple properties and then kind of rolled them into our house and some other things as well.
Yeah.
So real estate's always been kind of like a part of the whole picture of how to monetize this surfing thing and monetize wealth and not like work every day at 9, you know? So
you never.
This is good advice.
Yeah, you never. Yeah, you get.
Where were you
always
years ago?
You always look back, man. I should have bought another one. I should have done this. You know, you always look at like.
Yeah.
There's never a really bad time if you're looking long term.
Yeah.
But I mean, shit happens. Like that property in Hawaii, we got that fucking 08. We got fucking but that time they were landing us money for nothing, right? Like we got a big loan. My brother made good money because he was a soccer player. He was one of my partners. My partner over there was in real estate. He was making good money. It's the whole run up, but it crashed, right? 08.
Yeah,
we had a huge loan we had to pay off and find a way to pay off, and it was like, that was my lesson. The leverage doesn't always work too. So
that was not a normal circumstance, and everybody got screwed.
It took everybody by surprise, you know. Yeah. Honestly, right? Like people saw it looming, but they didn't think it was going to be like that.
Right.
So you and your Angie decided to go on a world tour. Yeah. Where did you go?
That time it was all dictated by my surf. Yeah. So first was New Zealand. And I was so stoked.
I'll take another beer.
Yeah, all right, cool. You can have another beer. You turning the pee
You
break?
want me to pause or you want to?
No, you keep going.
Okay. So
yeah, the first stop was New Zealand, and this is where I was like, I made a good decision. Day 2, super strong offshores. Heard about this wave, and showed up there, and it's like a couple feet overhead, and just like take off on the left, go right, and get barreled. Take off on the left, and go the opposite way and get barreled. It was just like strong offshores. We slept in a camper. It was moving. Then we went farther south and just like scored.
You guys rented a camper?
We rented a camper and lived in a camper, yeah, for New Zealand for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an awesome start. And then we went to Australia for 5 weeks, and we did that whole coast. I had been to Australia a couple times before that. Like, I think we skipped over some parts, but like in that QS phase, I tried to go to Australia and do a little of that as well too. So met with some guys and traveled around there. So I had some friends, and we went and stayed in Oz, which was epic. We surfed greenmount, snapper, all that stuff. Yeah, all through there. It was an amazing trip. My buddy showed us a video. I think there's a legendary lore, and this guy cuts up these people living in camper vans. You know, I forgot the name of it, Wolf Creek or Hollow Creek or something. And he was jealous that we were doing this trip, so he showed us this video. So me and hands were all tripping out when we were sleeping in the camper van through Australia. And then it was off to Bali. In Bali, we showed up in March or April, and in October they had just had a bomb in JimO'Brien. So Bali was so quiet.
Sketchy.
I don't know if it's sketchy. It was quiet. Yeah. It was just quiet. You could walk into hotels and be like, oh, they're like, I'm $60 a night. We're like, we'll pay 20. They're like, okay, you know, that kind of thing. And yeah, it was the place, man. I was surfing every day, and
Bali is paradise.
For a couple too, it's great because there's a lot to do and see and be, and there's great waves and
jewelry. Oh my gosh, you're gnarly.
Did you want one of those?
Okay.
Everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it.
Tea break almost too.
Yeah, we can pause.
Ready?
And we're back.
So
Back game on.
Bali.
2006 Bali. Super quiet.
Because of bombing.
The bombing had just happened.
I was there on my honeymoon during it.
The
Well, this
first
is
one, the 2002
the first
one,
one,
right?
yeah.
Because you went to Bali a bunch, so like for competing, you're friends with Rizal as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go over there to surf.
I remember, I feel like I saw you there once, but I don't remember.
Probably.
Yeah.
So how long were you guys
You
in?
used to stay at the Hard Rock though, right? Kuta, yeah?
We'd
Or
go.
did you tell me to go stay at the Hard Rock? One of the two happened.
It was a good pool. Like we would go have pool parties there and
Yeah.
drinks and cabanas and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, but we wouldn't. Sometimes we would get a room for the night,
Yeah.
but no, it's just good hang, good pool.
Yeah. There's so many insane.
We would just pretty much.
Well, then and now are
Cool.
like totally
Totally
different.
We go get a
worlds, right?
shake and like, what pool are we gonna go hit up today?
Right.
What resorts are we gonna go?
The shake walks. Yeah.
So how long were you there for?
We were in Bali for I think a month at that point. And back to your question, what I was gonna do? I kind of had that Hawaii thing lined up. I was gonna try to do some real estate and whatnot there. And Angela was like, I don't want to work in a restaurant because it's a tourism business. So we're kind of like, she's like, well, let's buy. We had heard people do this, but let's buy some goods and worked outdoor markets. We got married in Maui as well, so we had kind of researched it before and checked out the markets and all that kind of stuff because in the back of our head we kind of knew we were going to try to do something like this. And so
To sell stuff at the Maui markets?
at the Maui markets, because that's where we knew we were going back to. So we kind of curated around the tourism, though we created the brand Cleobella then. She made logos. She made our first travel clutch, which we still sell to this day. It's fits your itinerary, all the stuff that's kind of out of date with the phone, but it works really well and women still like it. We had multiple colors, and that's what kind of drove the beginning of the business. Backing up, and when we were in Australia, we're at this, it was her birthday in March, and we were at this market and we found these Indian wrap skirts, and I bought her one of those, and the lady told us where to get them while we were in India. So when we go to India, we end up going to find this spot.
But these are items that you guys thought were cool and unique.
Yeah,
but then everybody loved them.
Yeah, at that time we were customizing a certain things, but we were really buying things for resale, so we knew it'd sell for that certain customer. Yeah, so that was kind of the birth of it. So at the end of the day, she's creating, excited, I'm helping her gather stuff, but I'm like surfing and we're having dinner, and she's like, oh, this day, and I'm like, oh, this way. We're just having an awesome time.
So it's like an Indian sarong similar, or is it totally different?
The Indian sarongs we made back then were they were recycled saris, and that you can
Saris,
wrap them
yeah.
in like, I don't even know how many, it's like 12 to 15 ways and do it.
Yeah.
And we imported them when we were we ended up going to India, fast forward and going to India, we found this place. I ended up in the hospital for 3 days in India, and she went down and closed the deal on the sarongs, and we started importing them when we were in Hawaii. And we showed up at the markets, we were the only people with them, and she was selling them like hotcakes, and that year we made a bunch of money on those things, and by the time we left, 5 other vendors roughly had them at the same markets. The price went down. But also Alibaba came out. Have you ever heard of this website, Alibaba? We had a business card. We were calling the guy. They found Alibaba and were able to import the skirts. So it was like an interesting lesson in business, but it was a good one as well.
So going back when you're traveling, right?
Yep.
Coming back, you were going to be like a developer, right?
I think so, yeah.
Like land.
Yeah, I was going to kind
real
of project
estate.
manage.
Yeah, and then your lady though, did she have the idea to go back and like sell stuff at the market?
That's what that's what.
So those were the two like.
That's what I was going to do, and she was going to do.
Yeah,
that was the plan.
And this Maui thing, it's just an outdoor flea market.
Yes, there's a
Farmers
couple. There's a
market.
couple of them. Yeah, they're tourist driven, so it's not all locals. There's some that are a little more local. Some are like, oh, if you're staying in,
But
check
you
this
saw
local.
or you guys both saw like, oh shit, like
People are here spending money.
people can do business here. Like
Yeah.
you can make money, sustainable money.
Cash money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cash money.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Ever heard of that stuff?
When
It's
you
like
think
that.
of flea markets, right? Like
Yeah,
swap
not
meets
like
and-
it's
No,
not old
this is
stuff.
a
It's
booth.
like
Yeah.
artisan markets, right?
Artisan,
People either
yeah.
buy
Yeah.
and
So
resell
it's a
or
different-
create. They're painters. They
Yeah.
sell their wares. Yeah.
Artwork and
those
jewelry.
places, they're not everywhere. They don't work everywhere, right? Like
They're not.
I mean, they're
not-
definitely bigger in tourist markets because people think they want to
they
go
have the
find
money.
something.
Yeah, because you have to have the clientele that has money to buy stuff like that. And you're not selling it for cheap. You're selling.
We
it for-
weren't super high end though at that point. Like we did some jewelry that was super affordable, and the clutches were a little less priced then, and some of the
So that first-
wrap skirts were only like $40 or $50.
So that first go around, did you guys just stuff your luggages and add more bags,
No.
or would you import like
We
you
did
like,
a whole
like we're-
container. We just went. I think we dropped a bunch of dough and just
the first
went, yeah.
So
venture.
We had saved a bunch of money, and I got paid all the way through, so we were like making money still while we were
container
gone
from Bali.
from Bali.
Okay.
It wasn't a container; it's LCL, so it's a part
Yeah.
of a container.
Less
yeah, it's
than
not the
container
whole. It's like
load.
probably like a eighth of a container we
Yeah.
had, and then
But-
we got all those skirts from India. All kind of showed up after our travels, which was we left in February and showed up in Hawaii around November,
and,
December.
and what's that process like on like, okay, it's going to show up, do you have to pay a duty, do you have to even have to like
Yep.
file with like,
Yeah.
the customs, like
all
all
of
of
it.
that? Did
Yeah.
you do that prior to, or you just
No,
kind of
we
waited
didn't know
till
what the
it,
fuck we were doing. I mean,
Like,
to be here
it's
where I'm
kinda
sitting right
crazy.
now, like all this stuff.
Hearing that you went for it and I mean, you didn't do the full container, but you still went container. That's a
Right.
lot,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's committing.
Well, you go around. So
you're-
while we're in Bali, we collected all the stuff we had done, and then we package it, find a shipper, and it
Yeah.
sits with him. And we told him, "Oh, ship it this date because we don't even need it till this date."
Yeah.
And that time we shipped it in,
Lockie
consolidated.
honeymooned in Bali with his lady.
Yeah.
And they bought furniture and brought it back. And then I told him I was going to Bali for my honeymoon. He's like, buy some furniture and bring it back. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And Rizal introduced us to one of his friends that had a furniture factory, and we imported or exported from there to here, Huntington,
everything?
pretty much everything in my house.
Bed,
And it's so
bed frames and,
All of it.
insane.
coffee
Yeah.
We
tables.
spent
and-
like in furniture, we spent like $1,500,
Right.
and the
transport.
transport freight was like $1,200. So like we spent like $3,500.
But
So
really
you can get
good,
custom stuff,
real
quality
good
stuff.
Yeah.
wood, like
Especially,
and-
hopefully, Rizal's recommending you to the guy who does good quality
Yeah,
work,
yeah.
which I assume
I mean,
he would be. Yeah.
the stuff in my house is
His
still
one of his brothers had a furniture company. This is way before you guys were doing that, and I was at one point gonna just fill up a container and
do that.
and just bring over furniture and then figure
Yeah.
out how to sell it here. And I was
Yeah.
like, it was a point of like, what am I gonna do? Money,
Yeah.
and I ended up not doing it. But it's like, I wonder what that would have happened.
The only challenge with furniture is the space to store it, right?
Yeah.
That's the hard
Yeah.
part versus clothing. So we always, when we bring containers in, we'll buy those mirrors, we buy like 10 of them. So we need 2 for our house or 2 for the office, and then we sell the rest to kind of subsidize the
Yeah.
cost. What it is.
yeah. That's
Let's get it.
that sounds fun, like
Yeah, something cool.
buy shit
Mirror
and
over
then
there.
have it be paid for when you get back.
Yeah. There's
So-
so much we've learned from that kind of thing. So if people
Well-
do go if you ever want any tips. You can custom order stuff, which is amazing. Make sure you custom order and see the finished product. If you custom order it and then expect it to show up in America like you custom ordered it.
Yeah.
So it's like always good to check it or have someone
Yeah.
check it. Also, wood
Expands.
expands and contracts, so
Yeah.
we learned that lesson the hard way too.
Yeah.
So Cleobella
Was born.
was born, and that did she do the Cleobella? She come up with Cleobella.
She wrote it on a napkin. Her mom ended up visiting us in Bali. Her mom's name's Cleobella. So she goes, I'm going to name my company after you. And it's Cleobella.
No way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool. Yeah. It's a good story, isn't it?
And it's a good name. You know, it's got that kind of exotic, kind of foreign name. You know, it's not
Yeah.
a common.
And did she? And that was on your trip in Bali,
In Bali.
before you started selling stuff.
Yeah, so some of the stuff she actually made, because in Bali you can go down and make labels, do the whole thing. So
Yeah.
some products we actually made. We made hang tags, we made bags, we made labeled them
Wow.
all, and then we bought jewelry and resell that. We bought some other stuff that we thought we could just resell, you know. And yeah, she did it.
So you get to Maui, you unload your freaking container, you pop up a tent and start selling your wares. Was that like that first weekend of doing that where you're like stoked, or was it like, oh shit, we didn't sell as many as I thought, or was it just like, holy shit, we got to go back and buy a shitload of dimes?
That's a good question. I don't think it was the third one, but we definitely gave us enough to keep going, and it went well while we were over there. The skirts really sold, and the clutches and the jewelry would kind
Yeah.
of sell, but the skirts flew out.
And you're like,
I
cool.
mean-
we covered our expense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
now,
we got our
how do
money
we
back and
do we go double down again and go back?
Right. Yeah.
And how cool is it that you're like mixing business with pleasure, right? And like that's why I asked. It's like because you want to go back to Bali.
Well, that's
You
what I was saying
wanna go back.
before the podcast started. It was like,
That's the idea.
we're the OG. I always was inspired by Bob McKnight and some of those guys that bought trunks. I mean, the original part of the surf industry
Yeah.
was like, let's sell enough so we can keep surf travel.
Yeah.
And that was kind of our concept. Like, we love to travel. Oh, let's go back and buy some more. That's not actually how it went down, unfortunately, because the economy went. But if you want to skip to there, we can go back to some of these other awesome surf journeys along the way, because we were just in Bali and shredding, surfing, and going all over before there was a lot of crowds there and all that, and
Yeah.
no one around. And it was
Where was
amazing.
home court, like home base? In
Seminyak.
Seminyak.
And there was like nothing between Seminyak and Canggu back then, as you probably
Yeah.
remember. There's like the Warungs at Canggu and nothing in between.
Nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, Canggu back in the day, where there was a house every once in a while and a
Yeah.
house every
Yeah.
once in a while, and just
I went-
weird zigzag rice
Yeah.
paddy
And then I
fields.
go
and
over to the East Coast.
there was
for the
nothing,
good
and then you go
waves.
back, and now
Yeah.
it's like all these rice paddy fields have been filled in, and there's these monster compounds and new towns and
Nightclubs.
yeah, like it's.
I went with Lar for my very first time there. Well, what year was that? 2000? I can't remember.
I don't even know. Maybe
99 or 2000, something
Somewhere?
like that. But oh my gosh, dude! Like it was crazy because it was a Taylor Steele trip.
Right.
They're filming for Loose Change, and I'll never forget it. Like we get there, and the first day, we're like, I'm walking on the beach with Gurr, Ross Williams, Machado, and Shane, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Right.
And,
That's why I
and
say
it's
Bali's like
paradise.
an unreal world. That
Yeah.
kind of shit happens all the time.
And it was, the waves were not firing, but it was pretty damn good, but it was real reefy. I don't know where we were. Remember, it was like Shane and Conan were like kind of barged it out there, and they were like doing floaters and landing in like
yeah.
shallow waters, all reef. I just sat and watched.
I know, that's what I was going to ask you. How are you when you go surf with all those?
You know,
that
he gets
crew?
hammered
I
and he,
get-
and he lands on the reef and he land and kick out here and he just
Second day,
Yeah.
I hit the reef.
Right.
But yeah, that was a killer trip, and that was like way before it got totally blown out. But gosh, dude,
yeah.
It's still pretty special. I mean, I just
Well, I
went
would.
back.
I mean,
it's crazy.
I met Rizal. We were maybe 18, ish. He came over for like junior pro or whatever. I live in Bali, and one U.S. team went over there and compete. I wasn't on the team because I didn't probably make it or show up. Or no, I think it was because I broke my ankle. Remember, I missed the. Anyways, and he was staying at Ryan Simmons, house because they were on Quicksilver.
He was across the street.
And we met up, and then I'm like, fuck, I want to go to Bali, He's like, yeah, anytime. And you get there, and you hear about we used to go down to Mexico and how cheap everything was.
Oh my God.
And you go there, and at the time he was just a young surfer.
Yeah.
And there he's like, family had, restaurants, and they had a silk screen business, and you're either affluent or you're a worker bee. There's no middle
And
class.
then you have every type of business, it seems.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And the good thing is I say to this, I didn't go stay at hotels. I just go stay at the house.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have to worry about driving. And mom rolled out their staff rolled out food every day, which I eat everything. And I was like, I'm saving so much money staying here versus being at home. Right. So anytime I went to Australia or anywhere else, I'm like, I'm just gonna
go to Bali,
make a pit stop here and hang out as long as I can.
And you're getting a local experience.
Oh, for sure. We'd be driving.
Oh my gosh.
We'd be driving, and there'd be guys with the little
seven
food on the
people
truck, like the motorbikes with something on the back. And Rizal runs out, gives him some money, comes back, and he's got these little rice paper things. He's like, oh, so good, so good, yeah. And I'm like, what is it? He's like, just eat it.
That is the best hashtag he has. So good, yeah.
And it would be like what? You just stopped on the middle of the road and grabbed something off a motorbike, and it's this good. And that was it, being infused in the local and not really having to be worrying about where to go, what's going on. It was just kind of tag along.
He's the prince of fucking Bali.
But going back to so good, he had Riz T. He had his own brand, t-shirt brand, and it was in all the surf shops. And so good, it was one of the number one t-shirts at all the surf shops.
How sick is the name of that other store?
Euthanasia. Oh, Euthanasia. Yeah, that was another one. And then his good friends were in this punk band.
They love that stuff over there.
Electro Hell, and then they did all the printing for him. He's like, dude, they would go do concerts in Jakarta and stuff, and we'd sell $20 grand with the t-shirts. And I'm like, what?
He's got a racket.
It is. They're into everything. Right. Land development with her dad. Anyways, it was really fun.
But the show's not about Rizal.
No, but Bali is about what we're talking about, and it was. I want to go back.
So it's amazing. Boom, Cleobella was born.
It was born.
Success out of the gates. Then what was the next plan? The development kind of didn't pan out because of the economy.
Yeah, the economy just tanked. Everything crashed. We decided to move back from Hawaii, and we were like, well, we're going to create a brand and go sell it at the markets. I mean, that was one cool thing about repping, as you know, is you work for these different companies, you see what these companies do good or bad, and you can take from them and all the different business models. And though you're not in production and marketing, you go to the sales meetings, you go to the office, you talk to all these people, so you learn. So we had a baseline knowledge of some of how to do that. So we came back and then went to Bali and started a brand for a month, and labels, and we only did handbags at that time because we were worried about fit and all that kind of stuff.
Sizing, one size fits all with the
that
bag.
kind of stuff, And that was 08, I think, 07, 09.
The simplicity of stuff too, like in and out, not offering too much and just sticking to basics is such a stupidly easy thing to follow, but sometimes, because that's your demise sometimes, when you over expand a line and you don't focus on one thing, right?
That's what I was saying
especially
earlier,
in the beginning,
I always joke one SKU would be awesome. It's not realistic in the business we're in, but so many we're dropping SKUs every month and stuff like that now, but we tried to create a business model around what we think we could work and afford to do, right? Because we didn't have a big investor or any type of money in the bank, right? To start something, you got to do that. So we brought the things back. Ange went down to the Mart in LA and started selling to all the boutiques, and we got a bunch of accounts.
Now, because before the first round, you bought stuff, labeled them,
Some
and
of
then
it
sold
labeled,
it?
some of it we didn't, like stuff we weren't like, this
Calling
is
it.
a Cleobella.
Yeah.
So
And then, so the second time you went there and actually made more
Branded.
product with Cleobella hang tags.
yeah, we
and-
created a brand.
Yeah.
We created a little website,
just bags.
a little, yep, and just bags. Yep, mainly around the clutches. And then we went to the market and she sold a bunch of clutches. I don't know what a bunch is. A couple hundred. In the meantime, her brother had passed away like before this, and we named a bag after him, a KC bag, and we sold like 200 of those bags like right away. And it was kind of like all these little signs to kind of keep going at what you're doing
So where were you selling it? At the mart, or
at the mart.
did you hire a rep, or was it just
She
like
went down and found a rep and just rented space, and then she started selling her stuff, and the rep went, "Oh, you're selling so much, why don't you rep my stuff?" And so she went with her to New York and helped her rep her stuff, like she had jewelry and some other stuff, and then sold Cleobella stuff as well. So it kind of expanded out of there until we got to a point where we actually hired a rep
Wow.
as well.
yeah?
Because those marts, that New
'Cause-
York and LA kind of, they
Yeah.
would do show and then show and
Yeah.
selling, most
And
of
so
those
we
agencies.
take orders, and then we tell Bali how many we wanted to order. And I mean, you're talking, we didn't have credit apps or any of this kind of stuff. So we're
Yeah.
like
How
taking
many?
these orders and ordering them up front. And like a big change in the business was getting terms, right? Before we have to pay a deposit and pay before it's shipped. And then as we've grown, we get terms with the company. So now our cash flow is better. So it gives us room to expand, because still to this day, it's just me and her. And we've taken home equity lines and credit cards, but we don't have any investors as of right now,
Yeah.
which it's pretty unique when we go out. Like we were in some of these entrepreneur groups and we talk to people, and that's like, besides growing the brand, that's like a bootstrapping kind of
Yeah.
story, which is a
And
trip.
it's crazy when you listen to success stories now. It's like, how do we crowdfund? How do we, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
There's a lot
we're
of
like,
that work.
How do we got to sell ownership to get equity, to get the loan, to get this, to get that. It's
And
like,
I get it too, because if you want to move fast, like we've moved really slow.
Yeah.
Like we were under a certain revenue amount for so long, which is really, really challenging, because you don't have the money to
Yeah.
buy ads, spend on that employee or do this or that. You're really handcuffed.
Well, you
So
bring
we
in
just kind
you bring in people with money, and everybody has a different agenda or end date or whatever. Like, hey, we want this. We don't want to just sell in 2
No,
5 years.
they want
We
to sell the company in like
you
3 to
know,
5 from what
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's, if you don't have the means, the way we kind of did it, super slow. Sometimes you got to take the money and go for it. I mean,
Yeah.
you've seen some of these companies like Ruka's worked out well. I think they took money at certain stages in their growth, and I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
it
now
all
it's
everybody.
all weird, but
what's kind of cool is because it's just you two, right?
yeah,
And again, you're doing the business to fund your lifestyle of travel.
right. When I came back, I started doing real estate here, because at that time the business wasn't that big. So I raised some money, back to raising money. And I was at the court steps flipping houses. I went to like a foreclosure seminar, because I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I went to a foreclosure seminar and met this guy who happened to live in the neighborhood, Playa del Rey, Westchester. He was a broker and a contractor. We hooked up and we raised a little money together, and I would go down there, and I did that for 4 or 5 years, and the business grew during that time. And then
So
when
would
that
you
kind of
flip
cooled
homes?
down, I flipped homes.
And that's a good time coming out of the bubble.
Recession,
Yeah.
It was the time.
Yeah,
It
what-
was pretty much 09 to 13. 13, it really slowed down for me. But at that time,
That was
we
a
launched
perfect
clothing
buffer.
in 2012. And then so I kind of came on to Cleobella when we launched clothing, because we took a big jump up. And we had our kids as well at that time, our first kid. So we had to move the business out of the house. And that was the shop you've seen in Sunset. So
Yeah.
we did the shop there, and we had a little shop so we could make enough money. And then we had an office, and then we shipped out of the back of the shop. And when we did clothing, we sold enough. We grew out of there really quick. It was
Yeah.
super inefficient. Then we moved to this space.
It's got to be like rewarding. I mean, obviously rewarding, but also scary, because here you are, just you two, learning the ropes and like seeing things at work, and then capitalizing on it, and then as your business grows, expenses grow, and like all the business headaches and
inventory. Not everything checks.
Yeah, like
I mean, I can go on and on
Yeah.
about the life lessons. Like it's a kind of a spiritual journey. It makes you kind of, some of this is above me because if you get upset about all these things, you're not going to survive. You got to learn how to sleep at night because there's times where you can't pay people, you can't pay vendors, you can't do this. And if you try things and make errors when you don't have a big fund, it's like a small
it's very
room
sensitive.
from error. And it's like amazing all these little signs we've had to keep going, but we've had those points where it's like payrolls next week and we don't have any money in the bank.
Yeah.
It is me and Ange, but we've had some bad hires along the way, but we've had some amazing people work for us and help us, whether it's reps or marketing people and all that. So employees.
if you don't mind me asking, like first year, how much do you think you guys did?
Not at the market.
Market.
I mean, the market year over there, we did like 120,000.
Fuck.
Yeah, because those skirts sold like crazy.
That's awesome.
Put
Wow.
cash too.
Wow.
I shouldn't say that, but
And then what? And then the next year was what?
I don't know what the next year was because that's when we had to rebuild the brand. So we had to there's a
more
little
money.
gap in that time, but then it like slowly went. But
First year out of the gates, you did that much.
yeah, it was a good year. I mean,
Yeah.
that was just at those markets as well. But that's revenue, right? We obviously had expenses attached to that, and we still had inventory left too. But we reordered those skirts over and over too.
Yeah. But talk about like hitting a home run out of the gates.
Bro,
Kinda.
I feel blessed. I mean, I like this whole journey, like meeting Angela, like coming into my life in the surf industry, which is an awesome industry.
Yeah.
Being able to surf, I'm going riding waves, wearing nice clothes, going around, meeting cool people, and then meeting her. And she's like uberly talented, and she's a super driving force in our marriage. And then I, growing up, it's like kind of a oddly perfect fit. Growing up, not necessarily doing I had to do spreadsheets when I was like 14 years old, so like being trained as business and being in and seeing how businesses kind of operate, I had like a sense of a back end. But on the other side of that does create like a little conflict in a marriage too. So we've been able to try to negotiate that for better or for worse for certain times, and sometimes it's worked. I mean, we've been here for this long, and so.
I mean, there's nothing more. I mean, life is challenging regardless.
Yeah. But creating a business with your significant other, that's a tough thing to do in itself with anybody really. But to do it and mixing business with pleasure, like we always talk about.
And the one part is I'm the budget and she's the creative, right? And so those two things, like she has this vision to do this and she can dream and not think about how much it's going to cost, and there's nothing to take away from her vision, but then I got to take and either figure out how to make that work or fit it into the budget. And sometimes like I've held that back, and sometimes I've held it back and it's probably been a good thing. Like maybe our slow growth is a good thing, or maybe I held it back at certain points because I was too nervous or scared to take that extra spend on it too. So and money's obviously an issue in any kind of relationship too.
And being a little conservative, although it is slow growth, it makes you sleep better at night, and having that little bit of like, okay, we need a buffer, like sometimes, like you said, there's payrolls certain times of the year where you're waiting for money to come in and it's coming, but there's these like lapses, and as you grow up and get more mature, it's like, okay, how do we not have any lapses? And it might be the credit lines you're getting, it might be, there's certain stages where things just kind of start working themselves out because you're making the factories money, you're making other people money, and and it kind of, everybody's uplifting each other. But at the end of the day, after 2008, 9, 10, our whole mindset is like, okay, how do we have a buffer in life? Like that's kind of
well, having the buffer gives you a little more chances. Like to be honest too, I knew I wasn't going to fall on my face. Like I had my family, people supporting us.
For sure.
It wasn't like if we made these mistakes, we'd be out on the streets too. So like that's a different risk level
That's my
too,
story.
right? Yeah, right. So
Lennon,
that gives it, but we still went for it.
You pedaled 2.5 hours to the beach before, you could do it again. No, but it is like that. I mean, it's starting a business and growing pains is like a huge part. Even when you are successful, there's things when it's the business is consolidating, and that always sucks.
Yeah.
But it also is really hard on everything when it is growing and expanding and having that extra capital and planning for how to manage it all.
The amount of stuff I've learned in the last, whatever it's been now, 16 plus years plus. Yeah. What is it? 06? What did I say? 07, 13?
Long time.
18 years. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's insane. I mean, talking about, I can just, some of the stuff we just dealt with this week, like some of it's so cool. Like today, looks like I'm signing a lease on a new building. We had an employee go ape shit yesterday. It's like all these different roller coasters. But now I have certain people to work on this. Now I'm learning how to manage and lead a team.
Yeah. So, Cleobella, are you distributed in other countries or?
Cleobella mainly, we are probably about 65 to 70% wholesale, and we sell through boutiques.
Wow.
So back to like core surf, that was kind of our model. We sell through boutiques.
Yeah.
It's a credit card business, not much terms, so they pay us credit cards. And then we call them our mini majors. So Revolve and Shop Pop have been our big partners. Revolve from the very beginning. And then now we just opened Nordstrom's, which I have held back for forever. But we decided to go in there. We feel like we're at a good place, a healthy place to do it. So it's actually retailed really well. We just launched it in there.
And do you have reps or do you?
We have showrooms all through. So different than the reps, they're kind of showrooms. So we have an in-house rep that does the West Coast, and she has an assistant that works out of here. And then we have a showroom in Texas that does I forget how many states, but like that whole series. Southeast, we're big in the Southeast. That's like one of our best territories.
Yeah.
And so it's a showroom. So they have a road rep, and there's like 4 girls that work in there. Then we have the Mid-Atlantic, and then we have Chicago. And we've slowly built that. A while back, like things coming to us, we had a sales lady had a kid, and she was ready to go back to work. Her name's Devin. She's been amazing, and she was working downtown as a rep forever, and she lives in Long Beach, and she's like, I don't want to do the commute anymore. And she just started working for us before we could afford to pay her what she was worth, and then over time she built the business and showed her worth and gets paid a fair salary now. So she's put together all these showrooms and done an amazing job for us.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So how many employees in-house at Cleobella?
40.
What?
Yeah.
Are you
40
fucking
employees.
kidding me?
Yeah. It's insane.
That is nuts.
That's a great American dream right there.
Yeah, it's a trip.
That's what
It's a lot of responsibility though too.
For
to be honest, it's like amazing. I'm so grateful these people come and work for us and do the thing. But some days you
they
go like, whoa, and someone hasn't paid late and something's going. You're like, whew, these people now. The ladies are getting older. They have kids too. Like it's one thing when the young 25, 30-year-old girls are hanging by themselves, but now we have a lot of moms here too, and we sell to a mom demographic. It's like we want to support and make sure all this, besides all the workers, and we do a lot of production in India now. We have like 1,500 workers. We work with 7 different factories, and some of the factories do almost 2 of the factories do 100 to 80% only Cleobella, and then a couple other 60-40 less. So, and those are
you've helped flourish those factories to their full potential, and you got other extended employees over there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, providing work. I mean, that was kind of our secret sauce with the Bali. That was our marketing thing too. So we've taken a lot of small. Bali's a home industry manufacturer, like you've seen Rizal, all those businesses, and it's a beauty to that because you can have a low barrier to entry to start a business. You don't need $1 million. You can kind of have small batch stuff. So we've had some factories we worked with since the beginning in 06, 07. And we got them emails and bank accounts and all this kind of stuff, and we still work with them to this day. And so that's kind of been one of our things, is supporting our factories and workers.
Cool.
We've had some factories that didn't work out, but the majority is a lot of people we work for. We know their kids, they know our kids, all that kind of stuff. It's a trip. So it's kind of created a community around it. So
how often do you guys go to Bali in a year? A couple times?
For a good run, it was 4 months a year, and we go twice for 2 months. So we COVID kind of shook that up, but COVID we went back. We wanted to see Bali uncrowded, so we did the quarantine with the family. We were in Jakarta. They'd give us tests twice a day, even though we haven't left the thing, but we showed up in Bali and they locked the whole country down while we were there, which was kind of weird but also cool. And it was great to kind of be in the waves with not a ton of people, but there's so many expats as well But what was the question you just asked me?
Just like how many times going there?
Yeah, so for years we went
Twice a year.
twice a year, yeah, and we were doing the majority of our production there, and then we were homeschooling our kids.
Whew,
so
that's a lot of work.
Yep, and we had some help homeschooling our kids at times, and they'd go to homeschool groups while we were here. And then this last year we put them in school. So in September, our daughter really wanted to go to school. She's like, school like 2 hours in, they're kind of like, oh, I finished my school. Where's all my friends?
Yeah.
When you're homeschooling, so she wanted friends and more of a community.
Yeah, I think homeschooling
has its benefits and it has its.
It's a lot of work.
But
yeah.
your socialization skills and networking come from your school.
Yeah.
So it's important.
They would meet a lot because we'd have them in homeschool groups, so they meet a lot of people here. It wasn't like they were with us, but with Bali, we made it friends and friend groups and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah,
so.
after COVID, I heard, or during COVID, there was a lot where different parents were like, hey, I'll take the group on Mondays, the kids, and tutor and kind of supervise. Another parent would, they would kind of rotate,
We were set up for homeschool and COVID. We were like,
and
then the different, so we had them at like an art school and then like more of language and reading different schools and like groups, and those all got flooded because of COVID.
Yeah.
So a lot more people did it.
So how many shops, boutiques do you think you guys are in?
Around 500.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And how many collections are you guys doing in a year?
We do 10 drops. So we drop, we break it into 4 seasons, but we drop every month pretty much. And our e-commerce has really grown over the last year. So before COVID, we were on a good run, but we were small. Then we came out of COVID. COVID shut us down. We had like over $500,000 in inventory in the warehouse, which was huge for us at that time. And no one wanted it. And I owed all the vendors. And every week it got worse. Everyone was canceling their orders. I actually saw Bob Hurley in the water. The waves were good at the cliffs. I'm like, hey, this is my kind of story, da-da-da-da. And he's like, just reduce your expenses as quick as you can. You can hire people back and do what you need to do. Just protect the business. Something along those lines. And
wow.
Like, kind of cool
Good
advice.
running.
Yeah, like a random kind of running in the
Well,
surf.
he would
I never
know.
seen him surf the cliff. Yeah, that was
40
like,
years in business,
Yeah,
you got to figure
totally.
I got to pick his brain.
right. So it's amazing. And
So what are your guys', I went through your website, I was just blown away on all the like killer different categories and products you have. Like what's your stronghold? You mentioned bags was kind of the forefront and probably
Bags.
still is a big part.
It's not as big. We're like 70% dresses and blouses now. Yeah, that's kind of our secret sauce. And we do a lot of print. You can see we're very print driven.
Yeah.
One of our goals is to kind of do more of a similar stuff. We make a lot of the similar bodies, but we're always recreating newness. And we just met with a new factory last week. He came into town, and really excited about the potential for doing some bags with him as well. He has got a good program upload. Like Bali's amazing. They can do certain things, but they can't finish. They don't have the machinery to finish bags on some levels too. So maybe we'll try to get him some of those machines or move over here. So I'm excited about that. That's really good.
So what's the next surf trip, business trip?
I just got back from Bali, so I just got back. It was awesome. Yeah.
Did you score?
It's early season, so yeah, I scored. I mean, the one cool thing about growing up in South Bay is like
Everything's better.
everything's good. If you stick to that, you're like, yeah. So you can surf overhead waves every day. I was getting barreled. Did some foiling. My buddy got a boat, so we went out on a boat a couple times. I actually went out. So in Bali, like the Ted story, Makala too. I started surfing with Makala a lot, and be careful what you wish for. I also went on a couple strike missions and trips with him too. So that was like really cool to witness up front some of those trips and the photography. I was there when he got the Surfer's Journal cover too. It was just pretty cool to see his process. Yeah, of like how casual and how dialed he was with like how to do the camera, and he's like, don't be late this morning because this time frame is gonna the waves
Is
are
an art, is a
Yeah,
full
full
job.
art.
People think like, oh, he just goes for no. It's a work. He was working
It's like
hard.
he got lucky with that shot.
No.
None of this stuff is like instant success. You hear
Yeah.
about this with people. People have been working at these things for a long time to become an instant success,
A beautiful human that just gone too soon, man.
Right.
A lot of
tragic story.
Tragic.
Yeah.
But another, you're speaking about like just amazing photos, like Skin Dog too. You're like,
He was like the first.
he was like He would hold like no GoPros. This is like 90s, and he's holding like a 30-pound like housing or mounting it or holding it, and he's like, like that thing hits you and knocks you out or cuts you like.
It's great. Well, like Timmy and those guys when they were doing all their videos too, it's amazing.
Diehards.
What's next for Cleobella?
I don't know. The universe is up.
Nordstrom's. I mean, that's
a big one. Yeah. Supporting our boutiques. We just hired a full-time designer, which we've only had part-time designers, which we're excited about. And
are you going to do another store soon or no?
We'd like to do a store, but I feel like you need a lot of capital to do a store because between taking on the lease,
leases are short-term.
Employees, build-outs. We'd love to have another flagship store, but we felt like we kind of grew out of that. And now, like where we've elevated our brand to, it'd be cool to have like a store in like a Lido or some kind of place like this. And those places are expensive.
So
super expensive. So at some point, I'd like to, but we're just trying to, keeping on right now and adjusting, getting better at what we're doing good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, shoot. We're probably at 3 hours.
Jeez, we did talk a long time.
Yeah.
It goes quick though.
Yeah.
We went down memory lane.
Yeah.
Talked bunch of shit. What board are you riding right now?
In my car right now, I have a mix. I've been doing some albums. I got this Panda board, which was a Twinser that I took to Indo, which I really like. And I always have a Paizel Ghost in kind of my quiver. And I have a stand-up paddle. I have a 7.2 twin fin in my car right now, and 2 Seasides or one Seaside in the rotation.
Isn't that what it's about though? Like having something for all conditions.
Well, it's also keeping excited. Like I don't ride the same board all the time too. I'm not trying to like.
I'm in such a fun.
I'm gonna nickname him. Welcome, Mr. Jim.
Switchblade.
Yeah,
Swiss knife.
It's just quiver killer.
Right.
Yeah.
Congratulations on 17 years of Cleobella. Who would have thought a DJ that scratches records could be well. Your dad ingrained some business sense in you.
Yeah.
And took you throughout your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, and I owe it all kind of. I don't know if we totally got into because we stuck on the pro thing and then skipped to the business, but it was like surfing has really guided me. Like Bali, surf took me there, right? The balance of lifestyle. It all comes back to that. Staying healthy, fit, all this kind of stuff. Goes back to
like you would have never not go to Bali if you weren't a surfer, and you would have never found these like factories and these cool products and everything. Totally, and meeting your wife who had the vision and the creativity that was on the same kind of level of doing something different.
And what's like awesome, and we love to celebrate and we love to hype and accentuate, is it's a livelihood for not just your family, but 40 other fucking people.
Right.
And their families.
That's
and then the factories that you're keeping employees in.
Supporting,
So congratulations.
Yeah, it feels like a responsibility, and it also feels super grateful for being here and being able to do this, and the blessing of just being able to still get good waves every year at least.
Living the American
But I do want to make a surf. I'm trying to find a surf trip to put on the calendar between next 3-4 months.
Include us.
Yeah, right.
Lyndon,
we can give you some design ideas for Cleobella.
I gotta stand. My back's killing me.
But before we go, congratulations.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Thanks for thinking of me to do this. I feel honored.
Well, we've been talking about this forever.
Yeah, me and you have. Jay hasn't.
Yeah. But we have some lovely parting gifts.
Agent over there.
We got a late night with Chalky hat. We should have been using the koozies.
Oh, yeah.
Some shade sunscreen, keep your cancer off of you.
Sunscreen.
That's one thing that's been getting me is that
couple bonsai bowls for the family.
Do you have to worry about that?
Me?
Yeah.
I freaking.
But do you get it? Skin cancer?
I don't know. Maybe.
Do you get it?
I get checked every year. It's in part of our program, and my wife forces me to. But
you don't get it?
I'm good. They look
you got kind of olive skin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bonsai bowls.
A lot of those.
Yep.
Thank you.
Acai bowls in the world.
Northside Cafe here in Huntington.
$20 gift certificates on Bouchard and Banning.
They got amazing burritos and salads.
Healthy
really good
Tex-Mex.
Nice.
locally grown.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to have to repay the favor, and you can get your, and I tell guys all the time, buy your wife some Cleobella and she'll be super happy.
Oh, don't even
Valentine's Day.
Don't even worry about
Mother's
it.
Day.
Mother's Day. Birthday.
Christmas.
So hit me up. I'll
They
get
got
you
10
guys a
drops.
price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, Murph electric bicycles,
Loose towels.
loose towels, finless skateboards.
What are finless
Neon wave.
skateboards?
They are sustainably made organic, or not organic, but wood, like real wood.
But instead of grip tape, they're using like crushed glass. It's all like kind of just
Kind of
sustainable.
retro.
But they're skateboards.
Skateboards.
Yeah.
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 Okay, cool.
Really
Yeah.
cool.
Longboards and all that?
Yeah,
Longboards,
fishes.
cruisers. Also, Clearweather brand.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're a big fan.
Yes, I have a lot of clear weather in my
Me
closet,
too.
actually.
Josh,
Me three.
Shout out to Josh.
Earth Pack
Yep.
for all your packaging needs. You guys should talk to him.
I think we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you should talk to him again. Also,
This is Neon Wave.
this is neonwave.com. What else? Fuwax.
Foo hacks. I don't even know. We can't keep track of this.
Look at
I
you
told
guys
you we
go.
gotta
These are all
write
your
this down.
sponsors? This is amazing.
Yeah.
Told you we gotta write this shit down.
Yeah,
I
you
know.
do.
But no,
But,
thanks to our
great.
listeners and everybody. And we do this for the love, not for the
All right. Thanks for taking the time.
money, but we like money and we like free stuff.
Congrats.
Right
Yeah.
on.
Thank you. That was
Slim
awesome.
Jim Phantom.
You.
Skeletor. Just kidding. Obi One.
Yeah.
Peace. Cleobella.